Some things you wouldn't mind being stuck with, like a huge inheritance. But a phone that has to be plugged in just right so it charges is not one of those things. Switch to Verizon and we'll pay off your old phone up to $800 via prepaid MasterCard for a new one on us. Just trade in any phone from our top brands with select unlimited plans. $829.99 purchase with new smartphone line on select unlimited plans. Minimum $90 per month with autopay plus taxes and fees for 36 months required. Place $830 trade-in/promo credit applied over 36 months. Trade-in terms apply. Payoff phone requires smartphone purchase and port-in with new smartphone line on select plan. Must provide most recent bill showing payoff amount of eligible phone. Additional terms apply.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Zack Sabre Jr., New Japan Cup winner 2018, and you're listening to Keeping It Strong Style with my mates. Enjoy.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frogs. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace Up podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we will review Wrestle Kingdom 19 and Wrestle Dynasty and cover all this news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping a Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leave a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Chop Tea store, chop-cheese.com/KI Strong Style. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style merchandise. There's free shipping on every order and 10% off your first order. That is chopped-cheese.com/KI Strong Style. And if you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. We are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style for IWGP subscribers. If you want access to the weekly live stream, ad-free audio, and bonus content, subscribe at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. Young boy, we got a lot to jump into, a lot to cover. I don't think this is a week for a lot of banter. I think we should kick it off strong and just get it rolling.
Yeah, I will say I'm a little under the weather. I don't know what's going on. I might have bird flu, but it's the big show, you know, Wrestle Kingdom, Wrestle Dynasty. So I'll give you all the energy I have.
Listeners,
Exactly.
send Josh your energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to, this is always one of the most downloaded shows of the year. So shout out to any new people that are jumping on board. So this is our big Wrestle Kingdom review show. We've been doing this thing now for over 7 years. So hope you enjoy and stick around as we jump into things. But before we go into Wrestle Kingdom 19, a little bit of housekeeping. Our December match of the month and a wrestler of the month. So for the December match of the month, we are going with Mercedes Moné versus Hazuki from Strong Style Evolved for the New Japan Strong Women's title.
Yeah, it really kind of came down to that match or the final Korakuen main event before the end of the year with Oiwa and Zack Sabre Jr. versus Shota Umino, and who did he team with in that match? I can't. Tomohiro Ishii. Yeah, and the women's match kind of edged it out. Early candidate for match of the year, early candidate for Joshi match of the year. So we're gonna kind of give the honors there, and then as far as wrestler of the month, kind of a tough one because December was, it was World Tag Leagues and we were in the deep trenches of World Tag League. And there weren't a lot of great candidates. I think probably from a kayfabe standpoint, you'd probably be inclined to think maybe Hiromu and Naito. But as much as I love those guys, they were not putting in the work that last month, aside from the final match. And even that was, a mixed bag. So kind of doing a bit of a review. They don't have the strongest resume in December, but they have the strongest of anybody that competed. And that's going to be Zack Sabre Jr. and Oiwa. The two main highlight matches that you can really point to are the final Corkin match that we just mentioned, and then the match with Shingo and Tsuji on the World Tag League Tour. Plus, Oiwa had a strong outing on the U.S. match that he had against Gabe Kidd as well. So, you kind of combine all those things together, and that's going to be our wrestler of the month, Oiwa and Zack Sabre Jr. Maybe not the tag team from TMDK that I thought we'd be giving this honor to, but
hey, it's one of the hardest working tag teams in TMDK next to Ichiban Sweet Boys.
Yeah, definitely. So that is going to do it for the awards.
Nice. And speaking of awards, voting will be wrapping up shortly here for our 2024 year-end awards. So if you have not voted yet, get those votes in. And we'll get those tallied up this week and announce the winners on next week's show. So let's jump into Wrestle Kingdom 19. So it's Saturday, January 4th, starting at 3 a.m. Eastern Time. We had reported attendance of 24,107. This is down from last year's January 4th, which was 27,422. And we had a question from the Discord daddy. He says attendance was much lower than NJPW expected. Just want your opinion on the business end of Wrestle Kingdom. Is it due to the lack of star power, lack of compelling angles or special attractions? Ideally, you've got compelling people in compelling angles. Do you always need both?
I don't think you always need both, although it's ideal. You want to have both, but in the instances where you don't need both, you need one of those things to be exponentially stronger than the other to kind of balance things out in terms of, attraction. And they didn't quite have that. Now, truth be told, night one drew much better than night two. So it does tell you something that they were doing in terms of the paper on card was right, but it wasn't enough to kind of produce the sort of results that they were hoping and anticipating for. And, it does come down to the company's in the midst of a transitionary year. They lost a lot of their biggest stars over the last couple calendar years. And, I think that splitting the two nights and having some of your bigger attractions on the outside in matches that not always, but many of the times were less than compelling hurt. Whereas they might have done a much stronger house night one if they had taken some of those names and put them in compelling spots on the first night and sort of intermingled everything. But, I don't want to pretend to be a business analyst on this whole thing. I don't know if that just having a much stronger night one would outweigh the benefits of having the 2 night split. But, it definitely wouldn't have hurt things.
Yeah, we've talked about that with several other tours. A lot of times with these tours, they like to do 2-3 nights on a tour and give you 1 or 2 big matches and the rest is undercards, and then you don't always get a great number. And like, well, maybe if you had combined, 2 of those 3 shows or all 3 shows into one kind of super card, maybe you get a bigger number there. And I know sometimes there are certain markets you need to hit. There are certain maybe numbers in certain markets, but when you come to the overall show, I think, it's also we're not in the back end. We don't have all the facts and details, but I would say that it would make more sense to, especially with the state the company is in right now, to try to do one bigger show, especially for Wrestle Kingdom, make it a one big grand attraction until you get back to a point where you were in 2020, where you could do a double dome. They had the star power, they had the momentum, they had all the business metrics, they were selling out buildings, that they had all the metrics and star power you needed to be able to run 2 Tokyo Domes and do 70,000 across 2 nights. But, coming off the pandemic, coming off of talent going to AEW or WWE, yeah, the company is in a tough position right now. And so to try and pull off, a 2020 double Tokyo Dome and expect to have, 40,000 night one, 30,000 night two, they're just not there yet. And so, yeah, had you put a special attraction, Kenny Omega, on night one, had you put some of the Young Bucks or some of those other guys on night one and put all the marketing power behind night one, yeah, maybe you could have gotten closer to last year's number, or maybe even to that 30,000 number.
Yeah, I think the initial belief when they made the announcement that Wrestle Dynasty was going to be taking place, everybody's ears perked up, and it was like, hey, we're going to be getting this, A-list level sort of show. And don't get me wrong, we're going to break them down. Night two, definitely from a quality standpoint, much higher than night one, but it's not always just all about procuring the stars. As much as we like to talk about that and how that's great, it's also at the end of the day a business, and the reality is like most of the people that Tony sent were not the big stars from AEW. A lot of them didn't necessarily have the deep roots or connections to the New Japan product or the New Japan marketplace, and the way that they structured everything between the two nights, it made sense that night two wasn't going to perform to the same level. Now there always is a drop off, but a 2/3, 33% drop off. Like that was more than I expected. I was kind of shocked at that, honestly. And you just have to imagine that, like, if New Japan had brought the Bucks in and brought Kenny in and they had Takeshita, but if they brought Mercedes Moné in, and those are pretty much the biggest stars, and then you could pepper in a Claudio or something like that onto the show and just had one Wrestle Kingdom, then it probably would have felt like Wrestle Kingdom. People might have complained because there would have been people definitely getting bumped and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, there would have been that excitement and that anticipation. And I think both shows to a certain degree were lacking that. But I do pretty much attribute most of night one's overperformance from night two to the fact that they did have compelling storylines and things like that going into the show. They just didn't have the attractions they needed.
Yeah. Rambone's saying here, would one bigger show move enough extra tickets to offset the loss of ticket sales from the second night? Will the extra expenses of running the second night impact the cost benefit analysis there?
That's a great way of putting it. That's what I was trying to say earlier, but I might not be making sense because I'm kind of like in a, I don't know what I have. I've been like hot and cold all day sleeping, and my wife's in the same position. So it's not great, but yeah, that's what I was saying too, is like, I don't know if having basically what Rambone said, if they did really, really well on just a one night card, if that offsets the cost or expense of what they did on night two. I couldn't tell you the business metrics on that, but I do know that there's pros and cons here, because night two, hypothetically, I think it was received well. And even if it wasn't the biggest success commercially, there might be some dividends there that pay out in the long run, because you're establishing a brand. And maybe if there's interest in seeing that type of show happen again in the future, then, maybe it was a good investment, as a starting point. So there's always that to kind of think about as well.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into the card here. So we'll start from the pre-show and work our way down to the main event. So show opened up. We had the pre-show IWGP World Heavyweight Title #1 contendership New Japan Rambo match featuring 17 wrestlers all fighting for the chance to be the next shot at Zack Sabre Jr. And Hiroki Goto takes the win here, defeating the likes of Alex Zane, Great Okan, Tenzan, Josh Barnett, Kenta, Bolton Oleg, Sanada, Satoshi Kojima, Taichi, Makabe, Hanma, Tomohiro Ishii, Toriano Yoshihashi, Yuji Nagata, and Yujiro Takahashi.
What can I say? It was a Rambo. We definitely spent some time building this matchup in the preview and, talking about what we would hypothetically like to see given the circumstances and the stipulations attached to it. But at the end of the day, nothing much changed here. it was about maybe a little less goofy than you'd expect, but it was still a lot of dads, still a lot of mid-carders. The big surprises were few and far between. It was pretty much just Josh Barnett and Alex Zane. Spoiler alert, those are the only surprises you're going to get on New Year's Dash as well.
Yeah.
And I think we could do worse than having Hiroki Goto win. So there is a shining light that comes out of it. But, and this is nothing against Goto, as much as he's had a resurgent year over the past, 12 months. That didn't necessarily scream like money match in the future with whoever won the main event, right? Like certainly the New Japan, like diehard, the Shinihan freaks, they're liking it. They're loving it because Goto's a beloved guy and everything. And, there's nothing wrong with him being the February title defense, and fuck it. They might as well at this point, maybe they just put the title on him. It's, probably time, but I thought this match should have been treated a little bit more seriously, been wrestled a little bit more seriously. Maybe having it on the pre-show is part of the problem. Definitely the types of contestants that were in it were a problem. I mean, there was only a few guys that you could realistically point to and be like, this is somebody that could be a credible or even attractive challenger from a business standpoint. There weren't many at all.
Yeah, I mean, most of the former world champions in this thing were the dads. your Kojimas and Nagatas, and then, of course, towards the end, Sonata came out. I was like, oh, boy, here we go.
Most of the guys that were world champions in this match were world champions when Stone Cold Steve Austin was world champion. When Triple H was an up-and-comer. Okay,
right.
That's where we're at.
That'd be like, WWE did a Rumble, and all the guys were just like Attitude Era guys.
X-Pac, Road Dogg,
Godfather.
I was gonna say Godfather. Val Venus comes out.
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, it's your typical New Japan Rambo. We talked about it on the preview show last week. Japan in general is just not great at battle royals. It's what you got. And, there was a little bit of weirdness towards the end here where Sonata, there was one point where he did a low blow behind the referee's back at one point. And then there was another time where he did it in front of the ref. But then towards the end, Taichi low blowed him. And
no, Taichi didn't low blow him.
He made it look like Taichi low blowed him. And the ref was like, oh, disqualification.
And he DQ'd him in the middle. That's so fucking weak.
I'm like, Sonata low blowed somebody earlier right in front of you. You didn't call it. Togi Makabe was using his chain when he walked in to choke somebody. Didn't get DQ'd.
People come into this match with weapons and use them. No one gets called. I've never seen a DQ in one of these matches.
Yeah.
It was so absurd. Yeah. I liked Josh Barnett and Yuji Nagata kind of going at it in the dome, pointing back to their match from 2003. But that's only for the old heads,
Yeah, then Bolton and Josh Barnett, they were doing some grappling together, and they did a double elimination to each other as well. Togi Makabe, I don't think he was ever officially eliminated from this thing. I think he was supposed
Curtis Axel.
Yeah, he was supposed to go over the top on a clothesline bump, and he went through the middle, and then we just never saw him again.
Yeah, that was another thing too in this Rumble. There were so many guys that went under the ropes and were just hanging out by the ringside. I was like, what the fuck is this? Is this like the women's Royal Rumble? Like, that's the only place I ever see that happen so much.
Yeah, it was really weird. But yeah,
it was what it was. In fact, like at this point, they might as well have had more goofy people show up with some gimmicks and stuff because, this was fine. I mean, is whatever. Yeah. Like, I don't even know how you rate something like this.
Yeah, I'm not even throwing a rating on it. It was just is what it was. Last two were Great Okan and Goto. Great Okan was the number one entry, so he kind of pulled the Shawn Michaels hair, lasted towards the end, but was eliminated by Hiroki Goto. So it seems like new beginning in Osaka. I believe it's February 11th. It's not official yet, but it does seem like that will be the date where Hiroki Goto will be getting his title shot. He got a nice little contract with a folder. He's going to be like Christian and point to his folder in segments now. So we're all set with, maybe he can finally win the big one here. So moving on the main show, kicked off with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight tag team title Tokyo Terror ladder match. We have new champions as the Ichiban Sweet Boys, Kosei Vegeta, and our good friend Robbie Eagles defeat the Intergalactic Jet Setters, the Bullet Club War Dogs, and Catch 2-2 in 13 minutes and 5 seconds.
My wife came out while I was watching this. She's like, why are their ladders so fucking rickety right now? She's watched a lot of WWE, even some AEW and stuff. And she's like, they always have good ladders. Like, why are these guys on these aluminum folded up shits? I was like, they went down to the Tokyo hardware store. They just got whatever the fuck they could,
Yeah, whatever was available that day, they just grabbed it.
I think it's funny because I watched night one along with a majority of the people in the Discord. So I don't know if they corrupted me and my opinions on a lot of the show, or if I corrupted them as an influential voice, as a member of this community. But this match was fine. Actually, when I got to I had started the show, and this is probably part of the reason why I had some issues with watching night one, and I shouldn't do this again. I woke up and I just turned it on live. And so I was in the middle of the global title match, and I watched the remainder of the show live and then went back and restarted the show. And it just feels really disconjointed when you do it that way. And, not quite as cohesive, but people had told me this match was just like in the Discord. They were like, it was god awful. It fucking sucked, blah, blah. And I was like, oh shit, and then I turned it on and I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was great. Probably some of that has to do with the fact that again, not the greatest ladders, again, not a match that these guys have competed in extensively. One of the biggest differences between this type of quote unquote TLC, I noticed that they changed it from TLC to just Tokyo Terror ladder match. They didn't want to break a bunch of chairs, and they didn't want to go through a bunch of tables, and how can you blame them? I mean, the tables in Tokyo are not the same kind of tables they go through in America.
There were a few table spots.
There were a couple, but when you compare that to your traditional TLC that you would see, it's very rare you'll hear me speak glowingly about WWE style matches, but there was a time where they did the best TLC matches out there. That's kind of the standard bearer. Or even if you compared it to say a Full Metal Mayhem or a ladder war, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was many levels beneath that. I thought the guys did some athletic stuff. Kevin Knight almost died a few times. They worked hard. They tried to have some inventive spots. I don't know that the crowd was super into the gimmick. Anyways, they didn't seem to be super responsive. This was one of those situations where, I hate to say it, but they probably would have been better off just not doing the gimmick and just having the 4-way match, because the match was fine, but it would have definitely delivered on a much higher level if they just gone out there and just, play ball.
Yeah. I don't know. I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was a really good opener. I thought they were going out there and killing themselves on these, not gimmick weapons. They were doing a lot of crazy spots. You had, Drilla Maloney almost killing Kushida on the outside, trying to do the Drilla Killer through the table. He didn't quite get it, just kind of dropping Kushida on the mat there. You mentioned rough. Kevin Knight, they try to do that, I think it's called It's Time to Fly, that double team neckbreaker splash combo off the top of the ladder. That was crazy. Robbie Eagles doing a 450 springboard on Clark Connors, who was laying on a ladder. So there was just a lot of wild. It was kind of a car crash. It wasn't your...
Robbie kind of fucked himself up on that, it looked like, too.
Yeah, it did, yeah. This wasn't your super crazy. This is not your, the Edge and Christian, Dudley's, Hardy's TLC, where this made them and they're going to be, made guys forever. But it was kind of this, bing, bing, bang, car crash spectacle. These guys are just flying all over the place. They're taking crazy bumps. They're using, like I said, these non-gimmicked weapons, going through the strong style table, the rickety ladders, and it was just kind of a crazy spectacle. And I thought it was a lot of fun to watch. And then towards the end, You had the two main teams there with the Super Junior Tag League winners and the Sweet Boys and the tag champions and Jet Setters fighting on top there. And then in the end, it was the Japanese Young Punk Kosei Fujita grabbing the titles there. So Fujita capturing his first title in his New Japan career, becoming one of the youngest IWGP champions in history, somebody to hold one of those titles with the IWGP labeling.
Yeah, so congratulations TMDK, Ichiban Sweet Boys. They take home the silver straps, and we're off. I'd probably go 3 1/4.
Well, wow. I don't know. I'm super high. I'm like 4 flat on it.
I did not enjoy it as much as you. And I feel bad. You know what? I feel bad because I know they worked hard, and I know the guys definitely were probably feeling it the next day. So it feels almost like dickish to be like, not the best, guys.
Yeah, and I
didn't think it was as cohesive as it could have been, or as entertaining as if they just gone out there and wrestled.
Yeah. Also, I loved everybody's gear. Jet Setters had new gear. War Dogs had new gears. They brought some ladies out them.
They came out looking like Dusty and Magnum on the TBS Superstation.
Yeah, they look great. Catch 2 had some special entrance. TJP had kind of like a Darby-like face paint on.
That gear that they came out in reminded me of like the Purge.
Yeah.
The light up masks. So yeah.
So good stuff there. So then following that, we had the IWGP Women's title match with Mayu Iwatani successfully defending the title against Azumi in 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
I thought this match was just incredible, honestly. And I think some of the scores that I saw online via Cage Match, initially they were really high and then they've kind of leveled out. I think they're a little low for what this match was. Dan Coffin says women in all caps.
Women.
Yeah, I thought that this was, and I'll take it a step further. I thought this was easily the best women's match of the weekend between these two shows. And that's probably going to be controversial to some people. And that's not a slight to any of the other women's matches that occurred, but I thought Mayu and Azumi just balled. Like, this is probably, I know we like to do the 5 minutes of fury gimmick, and this one got a little bit more time than that. They went, I told you last week, I said the over under was 9. They went 8:46. So I was pretty close, but this was just, they went out there and fucking ran it, and they just hit everything, boom, 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 as fast as they fucking could. And it was a better version of the style of match that, who were the women that did it the first time? It was Kairi and
Mayu, right?
No. Who's the chick that it was Tam.
Oh, that's right, Tam McConnell. That's right, yeah.
It was Tam, and was it
Kairi? Yeah.
And Kairi? Yeah. They only got like 5 minutes and they did the best they could, but this, those extra 3 or 4 minutes like made a huge difference here. And I thought that they just really, really, really delivered. I thought they got the crowd behind them. It's not a surprise because Stardom does this anytime they get invited onto a New Japan show, they just ball out. And at the end of the day, like, they could have used a little bit more time. I would have been happy with that. Like, this was it just fucking incredible. Yeah,
this match was excellent. From the bell, like you mentioned, they just ran it. It was very much a high-speed style matchup, and obviously Azumi, the queen of high-speed wrestling in Stardom, and then you mix in kind of the strong-hitting style of Mayu Iwatani, and I thought it was a perfect blend of what they both do best, and yeah, just kind of hitting these big moves. They hit a lot of their big finishers. Azumi kicked out of the moonsault at one point. I know Mayu kicked out of one of the Azumi's finishers at another point, so it's a really great back and forth story here. And I'll see Azumi in the chase to defeat Mayu, one of her, elders, the icon of Stardom. So that was a big deal there. And then, Mayu's been on this incredible run as IWGP Women's Champion, and people are kind of speculating on when she's dropping the belt. There's rumors that she's going to leave Stardom and go to Marigold. And so there's a lot of surrounding around Mayu and this whole title reign and who's going to be the one to end it. And we kind of speculated last week with a lot of younger talent in Stardom winning titles, and Starlight Kid and blanking on the other one right now. Winning the top titles. I think was it Saya? Yeah, Saya.
Saya.
So you have some younger talent, and Stardom winning title. It seems like it could have made sense for Azumi to get the win here. Plus, they use Azumi a lot in the U.S., but Mayu was able to get the win here, hitting that double pump dragon suplex bridge. So really fun, high pace, high hitting match here, and Mayu getting the win.
Yeah, I loved it. This was, believe it or not, my second highest rated match of the night.
Yeah, that same for me. Yeah,
and 4.25, something like that.
Yeah, I think I'm like 4.25 on this. So then following that, we had the NJPW World Television Title 4-way match, and El Phantasmo becomes the new champion by defeating Ren Narita, Jeff Cobb, and Ryohei Oiwa in 10 minutes and 4 seconds.
Yeah, this was very good. I don't have many notes. 4-ways aren't necessarily my thing, and they're not always the easiest thing to get across. Would I rate this as one of the greatest 4-way matches in the history of wrestling or the Tokyo Dome? Like, no. But I thought that it was a good showcase for all 4 guys. They got their shit in, they got their moments, and the right guy went over. And it was a feel good moment. It was an enjoyable match. There's not much more for me to say there, but congratulations to ELP. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, we mentioned last week this was just like the right move to do. You kind of got the situation, hand wrapped for you. Guy comes back, beats cancer. Like, it was just the perfect moment to do that. So even if you had other plans, maybe if you wanted Oiwa to win or Narita to retain or whatever, it just made more sense, and it was a great story to have ELP get the win here. So yeah, it was a fine matchup here. Towards the end, you had Narita trying to use the push-up bar, hit Oiwa with it, but then Cobb grabbed it and broke it over his knee.
I love that.
They got a big pop from the crowd. Cobb hit the Tour of the Islands on Narita, but then ELP broke it up. He hit the Thunder Kiss 86 on Narita to get the win and become the new champion. Nice pop from the crowd there as well.
He also did an Asai moonsault to the guys on the outside first, and then came back and then hit the Thunder Kiss. So I liked that he took everybody out and just kind of cleared the way for himself, which is that's how I like to do things when I play WWE 2K.
Yeah.
I haven't played. I don't think I've ever played. Have I ever played a 2K? Maybe when they first started, but that was like a decade. I haven't played a WWE game in like a 10 years. 12.
It's probably about maybe like 3 or 4 years since I've played a WWE one. It's been a hot minute. But moving on to the next match, we had the Lumberjack Death Match with Tanahashi's career on the line, and he was able to keep his career intact for this final year as he defeats Evil in 15 minutes and 7 seconds.
Yeah, Tanahashi had teased that he was going to have some surprise lumberjack entrance, and then it just turned out to be regular old Hantai ass dudes,
Yeah, his Never 6-man champion partners and Oleg and Yano, and he also had Tiger Mask and Master Wato.
And Wato. And then Evil came out, and holy shit, bro. Like, say what you will about Evil. One of, and I'm not saying this facetiously, one of the greatest entrances in the history of the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, like I know we've also had many rants against Evil, and we're not big fans of House of Torture, but this guy gets it. He does have that aura. We always joke about him, doing the Rock promos when he was in the LIJ and come to the suits and the glasses. Like, he's always presented himself very well. And yeah, the entrance with like the keyboard playing, and then he's coming out with the big cloak, and you have the old green Evil laser lights going off.
I think they were like, "What would you like to do?" He's like, "Have you ever seen the Undertaker walk out at WrestleMania?" Yeah. Okay, we're gonna do that, but we're gonna change it a little bit. We're gonna add some lasers.
There was that one WrestleMania that Evil was in attendance for. So yeah, maybe it was Taker was there and he saw it and was like,
"It's like, I'm doing that shit
this way."
So yeah, it was fucking great though. It was an incredible entrance. As far as the match was better than I think a lot of people anticipated it would be. There were still those who weren't happy with the final product and result. From what we've seen from Tanahashi in the recent past with his struggles to like kind of turn it on for a big match, I thought he looked perfectly serviceable, you know, and whatever that means. I think he also looked as good as Tanahashi at this age is going to look, which to me tells me he probably took all the diet pills, all the dehydrations that he possibly, you know, whatever bodybuilders takes that they can pop out. Like that's what he took. And he came out and like, my wife was watching. She's like, he looks fine. And I was like, you don't understand. Like this is the best version of him. But, yeah, he came out, he looked good. I thought he had his working boots on, which means like he wrestled a competent match and hit all his numbers. Evil, considering how bad an Evil match can go off the rails with all the shenanigans, this kind of stayed middle of the road. They actually did work a pretty somewhat compelling match. Obviously, the Lumberjacks came into play. That was to be expected. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you this, Jeremy, match wasn't bad at all. I'm going to give it the same rating I gave the previous match, which I didn't tell you guys, but I'm 3.5 on both of these, which is fine. I wanted something entirely different, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I thought this match needed to be a spectacle more so than it wound up being. Like, and I'm glad that these guys wrestled or whatever and had their moment, but like, give me Sting Triple H. Like the one, if you're going to make us live through all the House of Torture bullshit all year long, then you might as well crescendo it right here, right now with the most of it that you possibly can and give us all the gimmicks. And I know I'm not someone who usually advocates for that sort of thing, but it's the Tokyo Dome. Tanahashi's career is on the line. It should have been like, remember the Hell in a Cell where Undertaker, the end of the era, and he kept kicking out of everything, and you were like, and you kept like thinking he was actually gonna lose the streak. That's how Tanahashi's match should have been. Like they should have kept hitting him with fucking everything, and like, and he should have just kept kicking out. And people, I thought that that's what they were gonna go for, and the crowd was gonna get really, really into it and like be up for this, but they didn't. I mean, they did have outside interference. They had some of that stuff, but it just kind of was more standard than I anticipated it being. And then ultimately Tanahashi just rolled him up in a small package, which I called that last week.
Yeah.
But I didn't think they'd actually do it.
Yeah.
So, he caught Evil on a banana peel. And then, Evil didn't even get his haircut at the end after all the haircutting shit they teased. So it was fine. It was good.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm a little bit lower. I'm like 3.25. You said this was the one match where, I wanted all the antics. I wanted lights going out. I wanted more garrote wires. I wanted people coming out. Like, this should have been unleash everything. Like, I wanted all the run. I wanted even more lumberjack. Like, I wanted more. Like, it should have been bigger. And like, you mentioned, like, hitting him with everything. Like, boom, push-up bar, kick out. Like, everything is Evil, kick out. Like, put him through a table, like blade, like everything. Like have this man, bloody battered, and it's like, oh man, there's no way Tanahashi's winning, and then he just keeps kicking out and wins. Like this, this should have been like a big, like you mentioned, Triple H, Sting, perfect example. Just like the big moments, everybody's running out, getting hit with the sledgehammer, like all the stuff. Like they should have thrown literally everything but the kitchen sink in there to try and beat Tanahashi.
Yeah, like I know we are not the kinds of guys that usually advocate for this sort of thing, but like given the stakes, given the stage, given who is involved, it just made all the sense in the world. I don't know, but you should have like Chono running in to like save Tanahashi, like Liger, like everybody. This should have been like a big. Muda should come out and fucking miss somebody.
Exactly. Yes, and they just kind of did a kind of standard lumberjack match. Also, you had some people getting spray painted on the outside and kind of
some powder.
Yeah, there was some powder, but I was definitely wanting a little bit more here.
How about Watto getting spray painted on the ground and selling it like the worst thing that ever, bro? The geekiest of all geeks that could ever geek that there was. And then post match, they because it was a banana peel win. House of Torture starts beating up on Tanahashi. all of a sudden you hear the guitar riff, da, 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 and everyone starts freaking out, and Shibata comes out.
I don't think they played the music. I think he just rolled in with the hoodie on.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's what happened. I remember the riff, so I don't remember if it was before or after, but it definitely occurred one way or the other.
It was definitely after, because somebody just rolled in the ring with a hoodie on. I was like, all right, who's that? And then, Shibata pulls the hoodie down, makes a save.
You guys should definitely trust Jeremy on this more than me. He's going to remember better. But he comes out, makes the save. These two guys stand tall. Obviously, the long history between them, I thought they did a good job on commentary putting that over. And then Shibata basically put out the challenge to Tanahashi for the next day at Wrestle Dynasty. And we got to change the card impromptu, where, these guys ended up in an exhibition style grappling match the next day. So 5 minutes on the clock. And, that was a pretty cool Wrestle Kingdom moment.
Yeah. And you know what? They should have had Shibata. He should have just came out in the match and help Tanahashi win instead of saving it just for afterwards. But yeah, good Wrestle Kingdom moment there. They set the match up for the next night. And yeah, New Japan doctors will just not trust this man to have a full-on match in their ring. So yeah, doing the whole 5-minute grappling exhibition.
Yeah. And I mean, like I've been told before, it's not about the wrestling. It's about the moments,
Moments.
It's about moments.
Speaking of moments, they did announce later on this show that Windy City Riot will be happening again April 11th in Chicago at the Wintrust Arena. And it was announced that this will be Hiroshi Tanahashi's final match in the United States. I'm
really torn because, we haven't really made the announcement here, but we are going to All In, which, by the way, you want to hear something funny? This kind of tells you how little I pay attention to shit. I thought All In was happening in the stadium in
Wembley.
No, I thought it was happening in
AT&T.
Yeah, I thought it was happening at AT&T Stadium. Now, this whole time I've been thinking fuck, they're gonna have a tough time filling up that joint. That can fit, that shit's gonna do 100K,
Yeah.
But then I looked at our tickets, which we were gifted these tickets, which is cool, because I probably wouldn't have paid for mine. But I was looking at the ticket. I was like, what is it? Soldier Life Field or something?
Global Life Field, I think.
Global Life Field, and I was like, wait a second. Why does it look like this? That looks like a baseball diamond. I was like, where the fuck is this shit happening? I'm like, we're in Arlington, but we're not doing it in AT&T. And I'm like, well, whatever. But I mean, I've got plans to go to the Dome next year. Then we're doing All In. Gonna be tough. Maybe I can make Chicago work. It's kind of expensive. I don't know. But if I did go, I would fly in for the show day of, and I'd fly that same night out probably.
Yeah, it's definitely a tempting offer there. Tanahashi's last ever U.S. Wrestling match. So yeah, we'll have to see. Yeah, definitely locked in for All In. Excited to see, Omega Okada 5 there with their teasing. But yeah, seeing Tanahashi one last time in the U.S. would be cool. Yeah, definitely hoping to go for his Japanese retirement show. So
they also announced a few other dates. We're not going to go through them right here, but they, noticeably, there was no Madison Square Garden show or anything like that. So it looks like the Wintrust show is the big show that's happening. And then the other ones were kind of more your standard run of the mill, mid-size, New Japan Strong type venues that we've been seeing in the last half of last year, pretty much for the remainder of the year.
Yeah.
So, and maybe something will change. I mean, there's always the possibility they add more dates, but it looks like they pretty much made the announcement of what all the US dates for the projected year are going to be.
Yeah. It seemed like there was only like 5 or 6 of them. There wasn't a ton of them. So yeah, maybe, they are trying to trim back, maybe run some bigger buildings, do some bigger shows this year.
Well, I know it's not a priority for them right now. Let's just say that.
Yeah. So following that Lumberjack match, we had the double title match for the AEW International title and the Never Openweight title. And we have a new Never champion as Konosuke Takeshita defeated the Dragon Shingo Takagi in 12 minutes and 42 seconds.
Yeah, Don Callis was there too. Like you can almost not even realize he was there, but yeah, he was there. You know,
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't go on commentary for that match.
Yeah, yeah, that would have been funny. I think a lot of people really loved this match, and don't get me wrong, I liked this match a lot, but I have similar feelings about it that I have for the ladder match, just like kind of considering the stage and who was in the match and what I know they're capable of. I can't help but feel a little disappointed, to be honest with you. That's not to say the match wasn't good. I would, if you were asking me for my top end recommendations for the show, this is going to be on there. It feels jerky to complain about what I consider a 4-star match, but I also hold these two guys in like the highest esteem, and like a 4-star match out of them. And it's not even necessarily all their fault. They got, 12 minutes, sub 13 minutes. Maybe this is all they could get, but it felt like they were wrestling the Shingo match. And you know which one I'm talking about. The very prototypical Shingo match. They didn't go into that next gear beyond that. It was hard hitting. It was really good, but it kind of just stayed at one tier. And I feel like these guys have much better out of them. If this was happening in the G1, they'd probably be going like 20 and going balls to the wall. And I don't feel like they necessarily did that. Now, other people feel differently. They love the match. They're really, really, really high on it. I'm much higher on the outing that Takeshita had the next day, and that was much more indicative of what I kind of expected here. But glad Takeshita got the win here. We'll be talking about him more in the news, and I would love to see him and Shingo rap, do it again.
Yeah, I'm kind of same feelings there with you. I'm like, yeah, 4.25 on this, which is...
Oh, that's funny, because we haven't talked, and I thought that you would like this a lot more than me, to be honest.
No, like I was on kind of sitting there waiting for them to take it to the next level, and partially that's probably my problem, because, I've hyped this matchup so much in my mind, and pretty much everybody was like, this is going to be the match of the weekend. It's going to steal the show across, all promotions. It's going to be this crazy match, and also, it's Konosuke Takeshita and Shingo Takagi, two of the best living Japanese wrestlers today, and are capable of going out there and having a 5-star banger, but I guess that was not the assignment here. And yeah, to me, it was a little bit underwhelming, because I know the gear that both these guys can kick it into, and it just didn't get there. This was like they almost needed like a few more minutes. Like they were like, it was like the first half of a really great match. Like had they had maybe like 5 more minutes, they probably would have gotten to that next big gear. Like there wasn't that great closing sequence. Like there's just kind of like Takeshita just pretty much hit his, the Raging Fire at the end, just kind of beat him like in pretty definitive. There wasn't this crazy back and forth. I mean, obviously there was the big strikes, the big kickouts at 1, but it was just not that, super great high end. It was
a little unearned when they started doing that stuff.
Right. It's like they kind of skipped the middle of what they would probably do and jumped right to try to jump to the end and do the fighting spirit stuff.
Right. And again, really liked the match a lot. I guess we're spoiled because it's these guys. I just thought we'd get more.
Right. Yeah, we definitely are spoiled. And, pretty much every New Japan fan was hyping this match up, and everybody, like I said, everybody I talked to were like, yeah, this is going to be the match of the weekend. It's going to be a match of the year contender. Like, and I think we put it up too high on a platform, and then they went out there, they had, just under 13 minutes, and for under 13 minutes, a very good matchup, still a notebook matchup, but with the level of these kind of guys, you would expect them to go out there and 4.5 minimum.
Here's where it's going to sound crazy. I didn't expect to like Tama Tonga and Shingo Takagi a lot more than Konosuke Takeshita and Shingo Takagi in the Dome. Like that's where I'm at. Like I think that match last year was much better than this one. So that's not something I expected to hear myself saying today, but it is.
And who knows, maybe they were saving stuff. Maybe there's going to be a bigger rematch down the line.
Well, it's going to be interesting. We're going to talk more about Takeshita, but he now holds the international title in AEW and the Never Openweight title. And it's going to be interesting. We've seen situations in the past where AEW contracted talent, and even talent that weren't contracted to AEW that have held titles in New Japan. And almost across the board, it hasn't really been to the betterment of New Japan necessarily. So it is going to be interesting to see how they sort of handle the dual champion situation. But, we'll play that by ear, I guess.
Yeah. So following that, we had the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match. El Desperado becomes a new champion by defeating Doki by referee decision, 5 minutes and 23 seconds. So these guys, they were cooking, having a really great matchup, and then Doki, being Doki, he goes for the Doki bomb on the outside, that top rope senton. Desperado's laying against the guardrails. He goes for the Doki bomb, and he just lands all kind of bad ways on his elbow, dislocates his elbow. Marty Asami, right there on the call, immediately stops the match.
Yeah, it's like, not to say that I know better than Doki. Obviously, I don't. But, there have been times where I've been in training and, like, you see guys where they try to break their bump with their hands and people fucking freak out because, like, you're going to break your arm. You're going to dislocate your wrist or pop your shoulder out, or you're going to break your elbow. Like, something's going to break if you do it that way. And you see people do that. And I'm obviously, like, Doki, it's different when you're that high up in the air and you can't really control your trajectory, but that's exactly what ended up happening. Was the arm came down to post before he could actually take the bump, and all the force came down on that shit. And I saw it pop out, and I was like, it's over. Like, it's over. I knew immediately.
Yeah, as soon as he fell, I'm like, damn. It's it.
The other thing too is, like, I really liked both these guys got, for New Japan standards, big entrances for juniors. Desperado had the really cool dual, like his black and red, and then the black and white dual toned gear, which I liked a lot. And then Doki's entrance, I don't know the relevancy. Like, I can't say what the kind of character was that came out with the fluffy hair and that was doing all the shit, but it was cool as fuck.
Yeah, apparently it was like some famous, like, stage actor. Like, the crowd popped when that actor came out. They knew who he was.
Well, I know it's some sort of, like, traditional. I don't want to say it's kabuki because I don't know that it's kabuki, but it's like something like that. I don't know Japanese culture enough to tell you, but I thought it was Doki. At first, I was like, "Oh shit, Doki's going ham right now."
Yeah.
And then he popped up in the back. I'm like, oh, that's not Doki. Like, that's just his hype man. But it's unfortunate. It's the funniest thing. This has the lowest rating of all the matches on Cage Match. I'm like, he got fucking injured. Like,
yeah, I mean, why would you even rate this? Like, I didn't throw a rating on this. Like, if you didn't want to rate, like, those 5 minutes were really good 5 minutes.
It was really, that's the thing. Like, it was really good. Like, I don't understand I know people are disappointed, and it does suck, especially for Doki and everything, how great a year he's had. And these two guys having this opportunity, I mean, big, title matches in the Tokyo Dome don't come along on a silver platter every day. So who knows if this will ever take place again. I'm sure they'll wrestle again at some point, but maybe not in the Dome. But hopefully that would be cool. But yeah, it was very unfortunate and very regrettable. But Desperado cut a promo, almost quasi heel. I don't want to quote it verbatim, but almost saying, like, he didn't feel bad that
right. Yeah, he was like
leaning into the character a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, I don't feel sorry. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't Doki's fault. Like, these things happen. We put our bodies on the line, and that's it.
So El Desperado is the new IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. Although someone needs to bring a fucking scale out. I don't think he's on. I think he's over the limit, bro.
Yeah, I think he's been over the limit. But yeah, that actor's name was Shido Nakamura, and he is a Japanese kabuki and film actor.
Oh, so it is kabuki.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I knew that is I thought along those lines. I used to play this game on Xbox years ago. My brother bought it. It was called Kabuki Warriors. And it was a fighting game, but all the characters were kabuki theater actor type characters. It was fucking weird. I've never heard anyone talk about it. It's almost like a fever dream that game existed. But yeah, a guy kind of reminded me of one of those characters. So
I was like, that name sounds super familiar, but I remember that's like Kyrie and Asuka's tag team name.
Oh yeah, it is there. Yeah.
Dan Coffin says they're on their way to 4.5 minimum.
They were very likely on their way to potentially having the match of the night, probably.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, Doki dislocated elbow. He's going to be out for a while. Desperado, the new champion. So we'll see where things go with Despy as champ. We've already kind of got the next title match coming up at Battle in the Valley that we'll talk about. So following that, we had the IWGP Global Heavyweight title match. Yota Tsuji becomes the new champion by defeating Dave Finlay in 19 minutes and 39 seconds.
Great entrances for both guys. This was a match that a lot of people were looking forward to. I can't say that I was necessarily one of them, although I know that both guys are supremely talented. I just didn't think that they had the greatest chemistry in their previous, 3 matches this past year? Yeah. Three matches. 3 high-profile matches. So this is like the 4th in a short period of time. And I thought they knocked it out of the park. Really. Like, for me, this was match of the night. I didn't anticipate this being my match of the night. And here's another thing, and this is an indictment on the top 2 matches. When it was over, I didn't think that this was going to stay my match of the night. I just was like, oh, we're on pace. They set the tone. Let's fucking go, you know? But they did a great job. David Finlay was kind of the star of this match. Like, he was brutal. And we've talked about times over the past several years where we've been up and down on him, but like, we're always like, he's putting the pieces together and then he'll do some things right and then kind of be missing some parts. And it's kind of been a long journey, but I felt like that was the most complete version of David Finlay I've ever seen in terms of understanding the little parts in between, his strength, his power, like the character work, the excitement. I did hear some complaints from some people that there were stuff that dragged in the middle, but like, for all the fucking outdoor or outside table spots and shit and brawling that they did, I'm fine with there being a little bit of a more methodical pace. Like, was this your Will Ospreay sprint type style of wrestling? No, it wasn't. But this was easily the most violent match on the show. It was the hardest hitting match. Yota Tsuji earned that victory. He got brutalized. He got slammed like a million times. And I thought that when he kicked out of those big finishing moves down the tail end, it was pretty awesome. The crowd was really behind him. And then, he Gene Blast Dave Finlay, got him the fuck out of there. It was great.
Yeah, this was a great match. Starting with the entrances, both guys had great gear. Finlay, a new robe. He had the kind of machine gun thing for the entrance. Shot that off for his entrance. Tsuji coming out, he had the Marlowe hat on, the nice new red and gold gear. He looked great. So both guys, from a presentation standpoint, look like stars. And yeah, the match was great. And even with Finlay kind of bruising and throwing Tsuji around, I thought Tsuji did a much better job in this match in fighting back. Because I feel like in their previous matches, like, he
just takes it.
Yeah, he would just take it and get bullied. And yeah, he was selling, but he was just like, man, like, come on, fight back, do something. And this one, yeah, he continued to fight back, kind of grit his teeth, and he pulled everything out. He hit the big Fosbury flop towards the beginning of the match.
Oh, that was so fucking awesome! Like, that was one of the best dives I've seen. It was so great.
Yeah, and Finlay did a big Uranagi to Tsuji through a table. So that was a great spot for Tsuji to have to come back from getting in the ring at 19. Then the great spot where Finlay just gives this guy 3 dominators. Boom, 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 boom. So a great spot there, near fall. And yeah, Finlay was just murdering this guy. Tsuji tried to come back with the Marlowe crash for a near fall. And Finlay hits the Into Oblivion for another great near fall. So Tsuji's just kicking out of everything here. And he went for a Gene Blast, but then Finlay hit a spear for a near fall. That was great. But then eventually Tsuji was able to come back and hit another Gene Blaster, because there was another Gene Blast that he hit. Finlay got the foot on the ropes, so he was able to come back, hit that Gene Blast, get the win. Tsuji capturing his first singles championship post-excursion. Crowd popped. Very big moment here for the Gene Blast.
Yeah, great moment, great win, great match. And I was surprised. This was my match of the night. And I'm excited to kind of see the trajectory for both these guys going into the new year.
Yeah, definitely. So then following that, we had the special singles match with Tetsuya Naito defeating the ticking time bomb Hiromu Takahashi in 17 minutes and 8 seconds.
Big entrances for both guys, big fight feel. Crowd very much anticipating the match. You kind of immediately got the feeling like, as we've all speculated, that this was the big main event for the domestic Japanese audience. Now, we talked about the business metrics, and they added this last minute. There wasn't a huge walk up. So I don't know how much of a big difference it made adding this last minute to the show. But end of the day, these are still two of the top stars in the company, two of the guys that people wanted to see wrestle. Naito came out with the, what was it? Like the all black kind of gear with the mask.
Yeah.
Hiromu came out in some sort. I don't know what the fuck that was.
Yeah. Some kind of one of these weird character things.
As time goes on, like his entrances for the dome are getting bigger and more extravagant, but also less cool, and just weirder. And I'm like, I don't know where we're going with this character, but it's fine. He's in his own world. So he came out like in a Chuck E. Cheese unicolored mascot gimmick or whatever. And I really liked Hiromu. I'm a big fan of guys getting custom gear for one match. And he had the custom gear where, I don't really like, I've already said this before, that I'm not a big fan of his shorts, even though it looks like that's kind of where I think it looks shindy-rific, but that's where he's kind of going with his like primary look these days. And the one side was the Hiromu decorations, and the other side was Naito gear decorations. So I thought that was really, really cool. And, they start the match and they just didn't fucking have it. Jeremy, how does one match feel simultaneously like it was the longest match you've ever seen and like the shortest match you've ever seen all at the same time? The closest thing, and I know there are probably some people listening, they think that this could sound really harsh. I don't think it is. I think it's accurate. This felt like very much like it belonged on like an early Saudi Arabia show, like one of those Triple H, Goldberg, Undertaker specials.
Yeah, dude, this match, I mean, it was a wet fart, man. Like, it was such a disappointment. I was like, when we messaged like after the show, and you're like, yeah, this reminded me of Saudi Arabia. I'm like, that's exactly what I thought about. It felt like two old washed guys who can't really move well. They're just spamming finishers. Like, there was a bunch of Destinos, bunch of time bomb, 1.5, 2, how many time bombs, they had all their big moves just back to back to back. Like, there wasn't really much in the middle. You got, the elbow thing that Naito does, the leg full Nelson, but like, that was pretty much it. Like, there wasn't a ton here. Like, this kind of did big moves, and that was it. And it was just very lackluster finish.
Yeah, they weren't getting the kind of reactions from the crowd that you think that they would get, and I think it's because Rambo and Slam Pig says this made me sad. Yeah, I don't think that they Wits Collection. I thought this match was awful. Yeah, I agree. Because it wasn't earned. They didn't build up to those things. There is a house style in New Japan, and the little things build upon one another. They have meaning. Don't get me wrong. A friend of mine said Hiromu's a husk of what he used to be, and that's absolutely true. But I put the majority of the blame on Naito, and that's not even like an anti-Naito thing. I think he's not Naito anymore.
Yeah. Santa's sad.
There were a lot of people like, okay, so I was having a conversation with Rich Latta from One Nation Radio, and he's like, why are you surprised? Everyone kind of knew what this was going to be. And I was like, when has Naito ever not delivered in the big spot? Like, yeah, he always looks bad, but when it comes time to get into the big match and wrap everything up and go. And then he was like, well, what about the match in at Forbidden Door against
Moxley?
Mox. And I was like, I didn't see that match because I didn't watch I didn't watch that show. Actually, I watched some of the show, but I never got to that match. Like, I watched it I didn't see it. So I'm like, well, that's like an outlier. But like even just a few months,
he had great matches in the G1.
I was like, he had a great year. He had great matches in the G1. He had a great match with Zach just a few months ago. But like between that and then, bro, we've talked about World Tag League being hellacious and the kind of like number that does on your body traveling in the winter night after night. That was a 3-week tour, 15 shows in like 3 weeks. That was fucking crazy. And then he had surgery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he looked awful at the end of the tour.
Bro, in this match, I thought he was drunk the way he was moving. And my wife was in the room for this match, and like in his entrance, he's like, "Why is he walking like that?" Like he's like,
"It's bad."
Like his knees are super shot, and I don't know what it was because he looked better the next night, and we'll talk about that. But in this match, like he was just,
I don't know. The next night, well, he was a 3-way tag, and we're not going to talk extensively about Dash. I don't think we're probably going to talk about the story beats, but at the end of the Dash match, he did that the exit where like you go over the top rope, you post, and then you come down like Triple H likes to do that exit, or he used to.
Yeah.
And Naito did that shit, and he fucking buckled. He almost fell on the ground. I was like, oh my God. Oh man. Yeah, Rambone says Naito looks so physically shot, but you just know that they're going to run him on every single tour in 2025 to sell tickets. No matter what, they're running him into the ground. And he looked like a dude that he needs time off. I know that they really relied on him in 2024. Bro, I thought the way they wrestled this match and the way they concluded it, that he might just be done after this match. I was like, oh, this could be fucking it. And maybe that's why like he took the risk and did the match. And then after the press conference, like, nope, we're inserting ourselves into the tag team title picture the next night. I'm like, what? After that, bro? Yeah. And then he goes over. I can't believe he beat Hiromu. I can't believe. Like, I can kind of believe it, but with how bad the performance was, I was shocked that he still went over on top of everything.
Yeah, and the commentators did a great job, like trying to tell a story of obviously their history and Naito being the one to kind of help Hiromu when he was failing in the dojo and all this stuff. But I feel like even though we were waiting for this match since 2020, like the build just didn't. It was kind of out of nowhere. Even though we know what it is, we kind of know a story, but to me, the crowd did not seem super invested in this match. There weren't a ton of stakes. Like, yeah, it was kind of this, special dream match kind of thing. But like, what was the stakes here? Was the winner getting anything? Like, there wasn't enough.
They did the worst build to it possible, and they had plenty of opportunities all year to outline how they wanted to arrive to where they were going, and they just didn't. They kept putting it on the back burner until it was the very, very, very end of World Tag League. And then the challenge came, which I don't know. It just seemed like a mistake to me. But what do I know? I'm not the booker. And then, everyone was kind of guessing, would there be tension or dissension? And at the end, Hiromu Naito bows to him. They both put the fists up. Maybe there is still possibly like, okay, I will say it was communicated to me that there is the possibility that they run it back this year. But I'm like, I don't want to see it at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, after that, I'm like, I'm good. I'm good.
Right. And it was kind of said like they'll do it again and it will be better. But I'm like,
how?
It's sort of like that Eminem song. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow.
Unless Naito is calling up Rey Mysterio and getting the stem cells done, like I don't see how this match could be better.
There's a thing in boxing where some promoters, they would have like a money match on their hands and they would try to milk it for as long as they could, keep the guys apart, keep them on these trajectories so that they could try to build the fight up so people would clamor and want for it. And historically, there have been times where that has worked, and there have been some big money moment. Like Trinidad and De La Hoya as an example, Leonard and Hearns as an example. But there have been plenty of times in recent, like in the last, like say 30 years of me watching boxing, where a promoter will have two guys, they're on a path, they should be fighting each other, there's money on the table, and then they wait too long and either one of them loses or both of them lose, and then they lose their titles and it becomes a less attractive match, or they just wait too long and the guys get old. And by the time they try to cash in, it's just not what it would have been. And, I know they made a lot of money, but like, for instance, Pacquiao and Mayweather, one of the biggest fight of, in modern times, obviously from a business standpoint, but like fight should have happened in 2010, not 2015. That was kind of similar to what we're seeing here. Like they waited on this match to be like this last bastion of the old guard, and it didn't even do the business that they wanted it to do, and it didn't deliver in the ring. And hopefully there's some creative minds back there that are looking for a way to kind of salvage it. But I was like, fuck, dude, like this sucks.
Yeah. What says Naito should face Tanahashi at the Dome next year? They can retire together.
No.
Oh man. So yeah. So that was that. Like you mentioned, in the backstage, they inserted themselves into the tag title match the following night. So yeah, very disappointing matchup there.
Jeremy, I know we are getting to the heart and soul of the show. I'm going to let you take this one. I'm going to feed my dog. He's got a little bit of an eye emergency, so he needs a little bit of extra attention. But I will be back to discuss this match because I've got thoughts about it. So don't you worry about that.
All right. So next up here, the IWGP World Heavyweight Title match. The champion, Zack Sabre Jr., defeats the Roughneck Shota Umino in 43 minutes and 44 seconds. And I know there's a lot of discussion around this match, and I know a lot of people have some very strong opinions about this match and how this main event went down. I will say, for me, I did like the match. Now, I don't think that this was a all-time great Tokyo Dome main event, but I feel like a lot of the work that they did in between the ring, a lot of the actual wrestling that Zack and Umino did was good. I think one of the problems was obviously the match length. Obviously, the match was way too long. They should have cut 20 minutes off of that thing, give some more to Shingo and Takeshita, give some more to Mayu and Azumi. So yeah, the match was way too long, and they were trying to force an epic, and that was a problem. And we've seen this in the past with New Japan, where they want to have this super epic, so they'll make a match go 40 plus minutes, and Umino doesn't have the chops for that. So that was one problem with the match was the match length. Another issue here was obviously the crowd reaction. And also, we've been talking about this for months now. When Umino first initially made the challenge, the crowd booed and rejected him. And once again, he was booed and rejected here. And they did every trick in the book here to get the crowd behind him. You had Zack just roughing this guy up, beating him down. And, they did these spots and moments where Umino is firing up and the crowd just does not care. They're booing when he's firing up. There's a spot where like he's super exhausted and he's hitting like the very, very like light, weak forearms, and you could audibly hear the crowd laughing at him. So the crowd reaction is another thing that really hurt this match, and I can see why it made people rate it super low. But I do think that somewhere in there, I think Rambo said it here, yeah, there's a pretty good 20-minute match in there. And yeah, I agree. I feel like of a lot of the work that was done throughout the match, I feel there was a compelling story there, especially in the beginning. You had Umino working over the head of Zack Sabre Jr. to set up for the paradigm shift later on. So there's a lot of like big high impact DTs that he was doing throughout the match. And then of course you had Zach working over body parts with submissions and not wanting to initially work on the injured ankle of Umino, but then having to go to that ankle there. So I feel like there were a lot of story elements there. There was a lot of cool spots in between. But as I was saying, Josh, I feel like a lot of the work was good, but the match length and the crowd reaction and just the way the crowd rejected Umino really hurt this match. And I know it ended up being a bust. And we talked about it for months that they didn't do a great job building this match, and they got here, and the preview tag, there was some hope there, but they just did not deliver to what a Tokyo Dome main event should be.
Yeah, I'm going to let you kind of continue. I know we got some questions and stuff. I am going to jump in on this. I'm just keeping a watchful eye on my little dog.
Yeah. I mean, I've pretty much went in on it here. We did have some questions. Stale Burger Bun says, what's going on with Shota Umino's booking general direction? Is he just in a holding pattern until Mox is ready to lose to him? And yeah, I don't know what the booking direction is. This was something we've been talking about last year of like, he was just not set up well from a kayfabe standpoint for this match. I mean, he had a, lackluster feud with House of Torture all year. He had a lackluster G1 from a in-ring and kayfabe point standing, and then he just kind of comes out here, backslide his way into a Tokyo Dome main event, and they expect everybody to just be okay with that, and clearly the crowd was viscerally against that, and that was a big detriment to this match because so much of the story of this match was Zach beating down Umino, getting him in that ankle lock at one point. That was supposed to be like the ultimate sympathy moment for Umino as he's trapped in that ankle lock and he's scratching and clawing and screaming, and the crowd did not care. They wanted Zach to tap him out. There was no sympathy there for him at all. And so I think a lot of the match was designed and booked to get sympathy for Umino, to get the crowd behind him. And so even though a lot of the moves and the execution of what they did in the ring, what I thought was really top notch, I think how the crowd played in and the story of the match really hurt this thing, along with it obviously being 20 minutes too long. Rambo saying here, doing Shota babyface and peril spots in the beginning, then having him do heel stuff, then going back to babyface and peril made no sense. Yeah, there was a whole weird spot there where he, pushed his dad, Red Shoes, and was firing up there. It was like, yeah, they weren't, like, so much of the match was designed for him to obviously be this underdog babyface and the crowd would get behind him. But then you had that one moment of him, trying to fire up, but it came off very heelish, and to a crowd that's already rejecting him, that just didn't play out well. What's saying here, I was so confused watching this main event. Yeah, it's a lot of things went wrong, and I feel bad for Zach because I feel like Zach wrestled his ass off and looked really good and did everything he could to have a great main event, but it just didn't work out that way. And also still a huge accomplishment for him being the first foreigner since Brock Lesnar in 2006 to win a Tokyo Dome main event. So yeah, as far as the booking direction, I don't know if you try to lean into this reaction and turn him heel. Do you go the John Cena route and ignore the crowd and continue to push this guy as a babyface and hope that they eventually accept him? I don't know what you do with this guy here. Rambo's ass was making the main event obviously too long for Umino in response to an injury-shortened junior title match and the need to fill a TV Asahi time slot. I don't know. I don't feel like they necessarily. I know they do air that stuff on TV aside, but I don't feel like they were obligated to hit a certain amount. And I don't know. I mean, we can ask around, but I don't think that they would be obligated to hit like this certain time cue. And there's obviously other stuff that you can fill in. There's promos and videos and other stuff that they could have added if they really needed to make the show longer. And who knows? Yeah, maybe the junior title match was supposed to go. Obviously, it was supposed to go longer, and that had an impact. But I don't know. I don't think that. I think even if Doki and Despy would have gone 15, 20 minutes, I feel like they still would have gone 43 minutes here because they were trying to get to that super epic. They were trying to push it into that, that Ibushi, Jay White, and some of those other longer style New Japan matches. They wanted you to see that Umino went through this war, and that was part of the story that we talked about in the preview last week. Is Umino having the endurance over Zack and being able to last super long. And so I think that regardless of the Doki Destiny match, I think they were going to continue to do this so that you could show, Umino has this endurance and he can go to the limit with Zack.
I always last super long. Trying to push some fluids here, if you don't mind me. But I heard a lot of what you said there, Jeremy. I think that this is one point that you and I are just going to defer on, and that's all right. Wrestling is subjective at the end of the day. I do think that the sickos on Cage Match, they agree with me. I thought this match was terrible. I just did. There's a lot of reasons why I did, and I think it was too long for sure. 43 minutes. It didn't need to go 43 minutes. James Boyd from One Nation Radio has said famously, like, if you're not having a near 5-star classic, you don't need to be going 40 minutes. Like, what is the fucking point? You can't tell your story. You can't tell your 3-star story in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Like, come on, dude. There were a lot of issues. And I primarily blame Shota Umino, to be honest with you. I know that there is some from the fans. There's some of the blame is laid on Zack, and obviously Zack kind of wrestles divisive style, had up to this point not necessarily been seen as the top foreign star in New Japan, and there have always been those dissenting voices that don't like what he brings to the table, especially when you compare it to the more predominant style of wrestling that you see from guys in AEW. Like when you kind of compare, like, say, a Will Ospreay or like a Swerve or a Hangman, they all have their own variants but they're all kind of doing a similar vein of wrestling, and like what Zack's doing is completely different. There is that thought from lapsed fans. They don't think that Zack can be the top guy, and so then you put him in this spot with Shota Umino and they don't deliver. And for people that are just kind of tuning back in, they think that part of it's on him, but then obviously the big talking point is Shota Umino. For me, I got to tell you, I think the blame probably doesn't fall on the 2024 Wrestler of the Year for the company and the guy that's had 200 plus all-time great matches in his career. I'm probably going to blame it on the Nepo baby who has been inconsistent and been gifted the shot and, has shit the bed many times. Jeremy, we live in the Florida, independent wrestling scene. We've gone to a lot of shows, and we've seen some really fantastic wrestlers have to work guys that are uncooperative or not on their level, or green guys or whatever. And I know the look of someone's face when they're really good and they're fucking frustrated working somebody that is either not cooperating right or not listening. And number one, Shota Umino got whoever, I don't know what uncle lent him their weekend cruiser to ride into the dome, but this dude had the boo-boo face on immediately. And as soon as the match started and I was in the chats, people were like, oh, he's got the boo-boo face. I was like, oh my God, he's going to lose. I knew, and it flies in the face of everything that I said last week. Obviously, this is the first time I've ever been incorrect about a Wrestle Kingdom main event since we've been doing the show. And I'm glad for it because I wanted Zach to win anyways. I kind of still can't believe they went with him, but they did it, and that's great. But Umino, he went to the ring looking like a guy that was going to lose and was not fucking happy about it. Another thing is my understanding has always been that the guys are the actual wrestlers are the last people to find out what the booking decision is going to be. And this is something that I had brought up in our chat. People kind of couldn't believe that would be the case. And I was like, all right, I'll make a call. And I called, someone I know, a worker who has worked for the company, who's been on dome shows. And I'm like, what does Gato usually do? How does this usually happen? And he's like, yeah, the wrestlers are always the very last people to find out. And it's usually, he's like, I would imagine for that kind of match, it would probably be a meeting the night before in a hotel room with some of the booking committee, and they lay the match out. They tell them what's going to happen. He's like, but normally it's just day of. You arrive at the arena, you get told who's going over. There's a booking meeting. They're like, you're going over. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we talked about it on our interview with Matt Seidel during the pandemic. We interviewed him, and he was talking about his time in Japan. And I think we talked about that on the air of like, yeah, you kind of find out for these tournaments and these matches, like, yeah, you show up to the building and it's like, yeah, you're going over, you're going under. This is how it goes.
Kenny has literally said in the past when he's been interviewed in a non-kayfabe sense about the G1, where he was like, I didn't know I was winning the G1. He's like, you work the G1, you don't know what's happening. Like you find out the day of when you show up at the arena. So to me, I thought Umino looked like a guy that thought he was going to win the fucking world title and then was told he wasn't going to win the world title. And I think he wrestled like a guy that knew he wasn't winning the world title. And my understanding from what I was told was that I saw some of the comments you guys made about the character shifts didn't make sense. What they were going for was him leaning in to try and showcase the different influences that he's had. And so like the beginning of the match, he was trying to do Tanahashi, and the idea was going to be, he's going to be these guys and it's not going to work. And then when he was doing the heel shit, he was trying to be Moxley. That was the idea that they were going for, was that like, he's going to be Tana, he's going to be Moxley. There's probably someone else in there. I don't know who, or I think there was he was going to be Osprey. There was a point where he was trying to grab hold of these influences and embody them to try and beat Zach. That was the story they were going for. I don't think it came across to anybody that that's what they were doing, but that's what I was told was essentially, what was happening. And I've watched Zach wrestle for a long time. I have never seen Zach call a fucking thing in a New Japan ring. So tell me why he's in this dude's ear talking nonstop for the entirety of the match. And it didn't look like it didn't look like John Cena where he's like, drop down, backdrop. and it certainly wasn't Bloodline. Oos. It wasn't melodramatic, and it didn't look like someone calling spots. It looked like a guy that was fucking frustrated, dressing down the guy that's working with him, being like, what the fuck was that? I think Zach was livid. I've seen the look on a guy's face where the guy they're working with is not doing what they're trying to do. And like you said earlier, Zach was trying to wrestle his ass off in those early sequences. Like he's doing everything. And it reminded me of like me being in the training. Remember the part where he kept getting Zach into the full Nelson?
Yeah.
Shota had no facials. He's just like, and like Zach's rolling around and getting himself back and be like, and Shota's just like, no facials, no intensity, nothing. He looked, bro, I swear to God, this was a dude that was, I haven't heard this confirmed. No one else has said this, but like when you say that when they went to the ankle spot and there was no sympathy, I don't think it was just because of the fact that how they portrayed it. I think it was him. He didn't show the fire. He didn't show the pain. He wasn't selling properly. He was almost no selling, basically. Don't get me wrong. The match itself wasn't. I do agree with what you and Rambone said, that there was some cool stuff in there. There were some sequences. It's not like Shota Umino is a completely like incapable wrestler. Like he is capable of having a good match, and he was in there, and he didn't look like a guy that didn't have the legs or whatever. He just looked unmotivated and unhappy to be there. And I don't know, man. Like for me, I just feel like every great wrestler that's ever had to go into the Dome and lose, whether that was Kenny Omega or Jay White or, Tanahashi, Okada, Kota Ibushi, all these different guys, they fucking gave, like Shingo, they gave their fucking all in losing so that they could try and still look as much of a star as they possibly could and put their opponent over. And I feel like Shota Umino did the opposite. Like it was an all-time fail job in the Dome. And I don't think he did any favors in if the goal was to establish Zach as the premier guy, he did the opposite of that. And it was to the detriment of the company. People want to get mad about what Chris Charlton did the next day, and we're going to talk about it, but nobody did more damage in that Dome on that weekend than Shota Umino. The worst fail job I have ever seen. I would be so fucking embarrassed if I was him. I wouldn't even come back to work, bro. I don't know why he's coming back. I swear to God. And I don't think that this is like, podcast melodrama, like trying to say hot take shtick to get, bro. I was embarrassed. This was literally the worst Wrestle Kingdom 2 match, like the final 2 matches of a Dome show since like 06, 07. And it is literally in the case of possibly ever. That's how bad it was. Glad for Zach. I feel bad that his moment got stolen from him. I feel terrible for Shota Umino. Like why? I don't know what his mental capacities were, what he was thinking, and why anybody would be excited for his chase after this fact. Like, I think when we talked about the other week, people kicking the tires to see if they got the goods or not, I think he literally showed us that he can't be trusted. And I don't think they should give him another shot. I feel like you get a Dome shot and you put in that kind of effort, you're done.
Yeah. What's saying at this point? I'm hoping Tony Khan signs Shota Umino. Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care what happens to Shota Umino after this. I feel so bad saying that, but it's true. It's bad. That was bad. Yeah. Really bad.
Yeah. So not a great ending to the show there. And yeah, the second half of the show is kind of really falling off there. And we had a question from Rambone saying, did the injury of Doki combined with the obvious letdown of the Hiromu vs. Naito match happening 5 years too late contribute as much to the negative vibes around Wrestle Kingdom 19 as the lackluster performance by Umino?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, those were all contributing factors.
Yeah.
I think the top two, obviously the Doki thing is not something anybody can control. The top 2 matches and what happened there, those were in some ways, I don't know. I don't want to say they're worse than an injury, but they're going to go down the record books. You can't take them back once you've done it. What happened. It's done.
Yeah. Well, that was Wrestle Kingdom 19. The following night, we had Wrestle Dynasty, Sunday, January 5th, starting 11 p.m. Eastern time on the 4th here. So we had the pre-show. We had 2 pre-show matches. First one was the International Women's Cup final 4-way match. So we had Momo Watanabe from Stardom defeating Athena from Ring of Honor, Persephone from CMLL, and Willow Nightingale from AEW in 11 minutes and 13 seconds.
I liked this 4-way match a lot more than I think most of the people that have commented on it or rated it. I thought that they really delivered. I thought that they did a fantastic job showcasing almost all the women. The only woman that didn't really get the kind of showcase that you would expect in a situation like this, I felt like was Momo. And when I noticed that she wasn't getting the same kind of shine that everybody else was, I was like, she's got Tekla out there. I think she's gonna win.
Yeah. I enjoy this match a lot. I thought for a pre-show, like they all worked super hard. They
worked hard.
Persephone, I never really seen her before, and she was doing a lot of cool stuff.
She's very green. Like you could tell a huge difference in her skill level from the rest of the girls, but you can see all the potential that's there. Like she's built and she's athletic, and she's green, but there's definitely some serious potential there. Athena, man, I know everyone always talks about like how good she is and stuff, but like I watched her in WWE for years, and she was always good, but I didn't ever feel like she was exponentially better than everybody else. And in this match, Willow's obviously fantastic, brings a lot to the table, but I felt like Athena was like light years in terms of athleticism, way beyond all these girls. And when I kind of compared her to like, say, Mercedes, I was like, her and Mercedes kind of almost wrestle kind of a similar inspired style, but like Athena's way more crisp and like way more like on the point, like actually able to kind of pull that stuff off believably. Like when she did like the rope walk spot, I'm like, I've seen Sasha do this, but it's always like, it's like in slow motion, but like Athena's like, boom, she's just getting it. I thought everyone really was impressive, and I don't know why people didn't love this match or really like it. That baseball bat spot, like I know it's probably like either a rubber or plastic baseball bat, but it looked like it fucking sucked.
Towards the end, Athena hit the O-face, the flying stunner to Willow for a visual pinfall, and then Tekla pulled the ref to the floor, and Momo got the bat like you mentioned. Just cracked her. Probably the best baseball shot in wrestling. Eat your heart out, ever. Sting.
It was much better than Sting.
Yeah, she whacked her with that bat across the face and got the pin there. So Momo has won the International Cup and will get the challenge for any promotion's women's world title that she wants.
I hope she goes for the CMLL belt.
Maybe she will. It did seem like they are setting up a Athena Tekla match for the Ring of Honor Women's World Title. So Tekla getting a title shot with not even having to be in the match. So we'll see what Momo ends up doing.
I saw that like Joshi fans were super pissed about that because they're like dreaming of Athena and all these dream matches. And like I don't know women's wrestling in terms of stardom like that, but like I don't know. Every time I see Tekla, she's pretty good, and she looks like a big, like she could really be a huge star.
Yeah.
So we have the advantage of being on the outside looking in, and we're not so much like narrow minded because we're entrenched in the product. But I don't know. I think that's a great match to make.
Yeah. Then the other pre-show match, we had the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles on the line. The Sons of Texas, Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, they defeat the House of Torture team of Sho and Yoshinobu Kanemaru in 9 minutes and 27 seconds.
I think that this match is going to be a repeat of a lot of the same thing I'm going to say on this show. Completely inoffensive, probably better than I thought it was going to be. I don't have much more to say beyond that. I thought it was cool, Dustin Rhodes making his return to the Dome after all these years. Sammy Guevara was obviously super jazzed about it. Obviously not jazzed up enough to go out and buy new gear. He still used the Wolverine gear that he used on one of the pay-per-view pre-shows recently, but he did high flying. Crowd liked it. House of Torture were kind of, They didn't really do a lot of shenanigans because I don't think that they were there to kind of get their heat stick over. They were kind of just there to be the guys that lost to the Sons of Texas, and it was a fine opener, for a pre-show match. It was good.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice, fun matchup, and I was actually kind of surprised by Sho and Kanemaru. I thought they did really good. And, Kanemaru, when he wants to, can, kind of be a good worker there, put his working boots on, have a fun matchup.
They were kind of just there to bump and feed,
And that's, they were bumping really big for Dustin Rhodes. And, they got the heat on Sammy, and he got the hot tag of Dustin toward the end, hit the...
Dustin sat everybody down, and he was like, I am the veteran here. All right, kid. And that's him talking to Kanemaru. All right, kid.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. Doing a Southern style tag team match. He's like, and the kid's going to do some high flying. How about it?
That's probably exactly what happened. And, you know, and for these pre-show matches, the crowd was pretty into it. I've got to mention the attendance number here. So second night, we were at 16,300. So definitely, you know, a lot less than the first night. But I feel like the crowd that was here was super vocal, super into the show. And even for these pre-show matches, you know, you mentioned Dustin Rhodes, you know, being back in the Tokyo Dome after all this time. Like, the team of the crowd, you know, recognized him and popped pretty big for his entrance and really enjoyed these pre-show matches.
I thought the crowd, I'll be honest, I did not think the crowd was that lively or energetic until there were some moments, but I thought for the most part, when they were up, you could definitely tell the difference. I mean, it was huge. With 8,000 less people, you could, in the Tokyo Dome, you could tell a huge difference. But by the end of the night, those last two matches, they were so high up that it was like night and day between the rest of the show, between the semi and the main event versus everything that happened prior to it. I felt like they were into it, but still kind of docile.
Yeah.
What is Dax, are you?
Tracking all our cars on Carvana Value Tracker on all our devices? Yes, Kristen, yes, I am.
Well, I've been looking for my phone for...
In Dax's domain, we see all. So we always know what our cars are worth.
All of them?
All of them. Value surge, trucks up 3.9%.
That's a great offer.
I know. Sell?
Sell.
Track your car's value with Carvana Value Tracker today.
So then we get to the main card. The show opened up with the 8-man Lucha Gauntlet. So at this time, we still didn't know who any of the participants were. So start off, we had Hechicero and Kosei Vegeta as the first two. Then we had Soberano Jr. in at number 3, Master Wato in at number 4, Mascara Rada 2.0 in at number 5. Then at number 6, we had Taiji Ishimori, number 7, Teton, and then the final entrant was El Desperado at number 8, and Taiji Ishimori ends up getting the win here to win the Lucha Gauntlet.
Yeah, so a couple things I will say about this one. In terms of the rule set, it didn't seem to be, the way they worked it, it didn't seem to kind of be clear necessarily what they were going for, that this was like essentially the Casino Gauntlet match. The guys didn't seem to be trying to win it necessarily, and it didn't seem to be laid out with the same level of like dynamicism. I don't even know if that's a word, but you know, it just wasn't as dynamic as some of those Casino Gauntlet matches. That being said, though, it was still fun. I thought that most of the bright shining lights really came from the CMLL Luchadors, especially Mascara Dorada in particular, really shined. I do think it was weird, though, like that you'd advertise this as like a CMLL AEW New Japan joint show, and this is really the only main contribution that these guys have, and you flew them out to Tokyo for this to be the one utilization for them. Like, it just seems like a misappropriation of your assets, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then the funniest part was like the match is going whatever. Desperado comes out and everybody is like, "Oh, the fucking champion's here," and they just wrecked it. Like they just all ganged up on him. Every single person hit huge moves on him just over and over. He didn't get any offense in at all.
It reminds me of those clips when people do like all the black wrestlers against Hulk Hogan in the video game, and they're all just like beating the crap out of him. That's what it was. Like all these guys like desperately walked out and they're like, "All right, let's run it." And yeah, just move after move. And it's hilarious. Hechicero, who's clearly a heavyweight, was like doing the belt motion like...
It's like, what title do you think that is, dude?
He's like, "I want that." Oh, man.
Yeah, that shit was funny, bro. And then, down the tail stretch, it almost looked like he did get a sneaky kind of come from behind roll up, and it looked like maybe he would eke it out even after taking all that punishment. But ultimately, Ishimori got him in the bone lock and tapped him out.
No, it was a Gato clutch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he got him in the Gato clutch, and he pinned him with the Gato clutch, and then 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
so
stole the pin there. So, and that's gonna set up also the next junior title program as Ishimori. He pinned the champion, so he will be challenging Desperado at Battle in the Valley this coming Saturday in San Jose.
Yeah, I mean, the match was not, I mean, considering the rule set and who was involved and what it could have been, it really wasn't what I'd hoped it would be. You know what I mean? When you kind of compare it, like, look at like the Wembley. Actually, just look at every casino gauntlet that has ever happened in AEW and kind of compare it. And like, there's no comparison at all.
Yeah. I think, like you mentioned, one of the keys were like, they weren't trying to get pinfall. Like some guys were, but like they were essentially, they knew, all right, all 8 guys have to come in. We have spots planned for all 8 guys, and they worked it as they knew. They worked it like a WWE War Games, that the match beyond doesn't actually start until all 8 men are in the ring. Right. Yeah, that's exactly how they worked it. And plus, we knew that there was 8 guys in the Casino Gauntlet. Like you don't know. Right. It's like guys just keep coming until the match ends. And I think that hurt it too.
That would have been smarter if they had just not said who was going to be in it or whatever. But then at the same time, you're not advertising the guys, but you still weren't telling us the names anyway. So it just all around, it was kind of weird. But the match was enjoyable. It wasn't
fun. And like you mentioned, the CMLL guys were the highlight. Mascot Arata and Soberano Jr. did a lot of really cool spots. Also, Hechicero was always great. So yeah, it was
Soberano Jr. came out in the like Christ-like Jesus entrance gear. That was kind of sacrilegious, but also cool.
Wasn't feeling that.
I wonder how Teton's feeling about that. You know how he is.
Yeah, they probably had a talk afterwards. But yeah, so that was that. Following that, we had the Tanahashi versus Shibata 5-minute exhibition match, where they went to a 5-minute time limit draw.
So here's the crazy thing: is I thought it was just grappling only, but it was an exhibition match. So like, what was the deal here?
I mean, I think I don't know. They just said it was an exhibition match. I didn't think it was supposed to be grappling, but
I thought it was. But maybe that was headcanon. I don't know, but
maybe it was, because that's the whole Shibata gimmick. They don't want him like taking blows, and so maybe they thought like it was going to be a grappling, and then they were like, no, we're just going to chop each other for 5 minutes.
No. They did a lockup for like a minute.
Yeah.
They did a Greco-Roman lockup, and they really worked the shit out of that. Like, I'm like, these guys are like masters. Like, you can see their facials, and like, they're so into it, but I'm like, there's no pressure being applied like at all, but it looks like there is. But like, these guys are just going to work the fuck out of this head. This is all they can do. So they're just going to work it to the best of their ability. And like, they worked that for like a minute, and then it was like, then it just went off to chops. And that was awesome, but that's all it was, you know? So this almost felt kind of more like an angle than a real match, but it's what they could do. I enjoyed it for what it was. I know some people were pissed about it, but whatever. Like, I thought it was good.
I mean, I wasn't expecting much of it being the 5-minute deal. Like, I thought it was the fun little thing there. Like you mentioned, it was more of an angle. Shibata did say that, post-match, maybe we should continue this in AEW. So that's where he can actually have a match. So we'll probably have Shibata versus Tanahashi on an AEW show sometime this year.
I don't know, man. They're making a lot of promises I don't think they can really deliver on when it comes to Tanahashi and how many dates he's got. And do we really want to see a full-fledged Tanahashi-Shibata match in 2025? Like, I'm cool with the 5-minute exhibition. I think all his matches should be exhibitions this year.
It's a bunch of 5-minute matches.
Just have this man come out, do his shtick, this.
Sling blade, roll up.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So that was that. Following that, we had the double title match with the NJPW Strong Women's title and the Rev Pro Undisputed British Women's title. And Mercedes Moné defeated Mina Shirakawa to become the new Rev Pro British Undisputed Women's Champion. And she's now three belts, Moné.
Yeah, she's got 3 titles, although I think it's weird that Rev Pro had unified with Southside Wrestling and unified all their titles and folded them into, that was a while ago. And there was a time where the cruiserweight and the heavyweight title were represented by multiple belts, but they just kind of folded them all in. But the women's title is still represented by the Southside belt and the Rev Pro title. So it looks like she got 4 titles, kind of the same thing when Kenny had the 2 TNA belts at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But, she's only got the 3 belts, which that's still a lot. But, yeah, they should just get rid of the Southside belt because it's not even a thing anymore. But whatever. What do I know, But, yeah, I thought the match was very good. I don't think it was anywhere near the caliber of some of the output that Mercedes has had recently. Others are going to disagree. I didn't think it was near the level of precision or excitement that we got out of the IWGP women's title match the day before, but this was it's sort of apples and oranges. This was a different style of wrestling match. They told a prolonged story. They focused on like Mina really focused on Mercedes' leg and taking her knees out from her, and I thought Mercedes did a great job kind of doing the selling on the, because a lot of her offense requires those legs, and, the crowd was into it. It was a good match. I don't think it got to that level where I'd be like, this was a great match and I was super gung ho on it, but given its spot on the card, which by the way, I was surprised it was like the 3rd match of the night, because in the press conference, it got like second billing, and Sasha said she was co-headlining the Dome. And I thought she was like, I thought I figured something must have shifted, because I don't know, but
well, there was no match order until after.
No, I know there wasn't, but she said she was co-headlining the Dome, so I assumed she was co-headlining the Dome, and I felt like that made sense to me. She's one of the biggest stars on the evening, but ultimately, she picked up the win. I thought the match was very good. The biggest impression that I got from it, though, was how over at the end of the match Mercedes was, because they were chanting the CEO chant for a long ass time after the match. So even like after everyone was gone, like the crowd was still like, you could hear it. It wasn't CEO. It wasn't everybody, but it was a sizable and noticeable enough amount where you're like, they're still fucking going. Like, that's crazy. So yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed this match a lot. I'm like close to 4 stars on it. I thought the work was really good, and clearly, it wasn't quite as high as some of Mercedes' recent matches, but it is Mina, and from what I hear from people I talk to from Joshi, like Mina is not like the super high-end Joshi worker. She's obviously more charisma, but it's still a very good wrestler. And so I don't think a lot of Joshi fans were expecting this to be a super high-end like the Hazuki match, some of the other matches that Mercedes had recently. But yeah, still a very good match like Gabe mentioned. Yeah, worked on the knee throughout the match, and Mina going for the figure 4 as one of her finishers there to try and submit Mercedes, but Mercedes was able to hit that awkward money maker finisher there to get the win. It's probably one of the best ones she's hit.
She actually landed it really well.
Yeah, so good win there. They did tell a story of Mercedes being one of Mina's kind of first friends when Mercedes came into Japan, and Mina showed Mercedes around. So we'll kind of have that.
Did you notice how much better Mayu's frog splash was the night before?
Oh yeah, Mayu kills that frog splash.
Yeah, her frog splash is incredible. I was like, oh, if you're Mercedes and you're watching that, you probably just think like, I either need to learn this move or just cut it out.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, it kind of feels like she's afraid to like maybe hit her knees, but then again, she does a bunch of meteoros off the top and is always landing on her knees. So I don't understand why she can't do the frog
I just think
splash.
she doesn't have the athleticism to like do the
movement.
She can't do it.
So Mercedes gets the win there, and will be probably appearing in Rev Pro some point soon to defend that British women's title
against all the female stars there, all the big names.
I was gonna try and name one, but I can't even. One's not even coming to my mind right now.
Everybody that hasn't been signed by AEW, Stardom, or WWE.
Following that, we had David Finlay defeating Big Bad Brody King in 12 minutes and 53 seconds.
Yeah, good match. I thought this was the Brody King show. He took literally like 85-90% of the offense. Just fucking dominated David Finlay. And I think for a lot of the guys that were coming out of the night before, some of the matches were laid out that way, and it sort of makes sense from a kayfabe standpoint. Like if they went through arduous matches that were very, taxing the night before, and then they're having to fight back to back the very next night against a fresh opponent, they're not going to have as much offense. Plus, these guys, a lot of them are from AEW and they're doing jobs, so they're having to kind of be made to look like stars and everything like that. So I thought Brody King did a really good job getting over with the crowd. We wondered how a match between him and Finlay would look like with how dominant Finlay is, and we found out like Finlay wasn't going to get shit in. Like he really was the rag doll for Brody King, and Brody King leaned heavily into his Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen influences. The crowd, I thought they appreciated it. But then at the very tail end of the match, just out of nowhere, David Finlay like found the opening. You know, he was up on the top rope. We kind of speculated how he might be able to pull off a power bomb exactly this way. Like he hit Brody King in the gut, hit him in the head, dropped down, gave him a power bomb. But then the surprising thing was he hit him with a real fucking power bomb.
Right, yeah, picked him up. Yeah, he dropped him with the power bomb.
And that was like, he didn't have to have done anything else the rest of the match, because that one thing was so impressive. Like that's what you walked around. You're like, damn, he power bombed Brody King. That was sick. And then hit him with this finish, and then 1, 2, 3. The match was good. You know, I've heard some of the like AEW voices out there that are like, this show fucking killed the night before. You know, we're off to the races. And like, I'll be honest with you, Jeremy. Like, they're obviously we're gonna get to it. There's a match of the year, possibly decade contender on the show. But I didn't feel like it was definitely a better show than the night before. But I also didn't feel like, and for New Japan, it's probably a quote unquote show of the year contender. But like for the greater overall wrestling world, this didn't feel like some special show when I was watching it. Like, I don't think this is going to hold up to some of the best shows that like New Japan or AEW or Stardom are going to put out the rest of the year necessarily. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I just feel like this show kind of got into more kind of a better groove, and I feel like this show was laid out more like a traditional Wrestle Kingdom, where you kind of start with a lower end, quote unquote lower end match, and you kind of crescendo to the great matches. So I think it was better pacing here, and a lot of these early matches were very enjoyable. Yeah, I thought this was a really good match. I think Dave Finlay had a great weekend between this and the Tsuji match, and he did a great job selling here. And the crowd was actually getting behind Finlay here and wanted him to fight. Wanted to fight back. And there was a nasty spot where he was sitting against the guardrail, and Brody landed a crossbody to him and crunched him.
That was awesome.
Yeah, so Brody, like you mentioned, was just a monster here, destroying him. He was getting over as well with his barking thing, and yeah, very good hard hitting, and yeah, great big pop for Finlay doing the powerbomb into oblivion and gets the win.
But I've heard people be like, this saved New Japan, and basically almost talk it up like this was a really like legend, like all-time show sort of thing, you know, and I don't think it was. Like, I thought it was a fun show with a lot of good matches that don't really mean very much for either company in the long run, but you know, they happen in a vacuum.
Yeah, I think this was more, the vibes are just better for this show. Yeah. And I think night one left a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. So once yeah, so like the flow of the show, like going the two pre-show matches were very good. The Lucha Gauntlet was fun, and then you get the Mercedes match that was very good. You got your emotional Shibata Tanahashi. So there's just a lot of good vibes.
Night one, actually, if those top two matches had delivered, it probably would have been a fine show. It wouldn't have been like an all-time Wrestle Kingdom or nothing like that, but it would have been, if those matches could have and should have delivered, we'd be talking about night one in a much different light.
Yeah, and if Doki and Despy were able to have their full match, like if those three matches, Doki, Despy, and the last two matches were able to be great, like night one would have been comparable to this show. So good match here. Finlay rebounding from losing to Tsuji, and like we kind of predicting, we think he's going to lose up this year, and so getting a win here over Brody King. So then following that, we had Shota Umino defeating Claudio Castagnoli 14 minutes and 31 seconds.
Claudio came out and attacked Shota Umino on his way to the ring, which was pretty exciting. The match itself was fine. I thought Shota Umino put in a much more like a lot more effort into this match than he did the first night.
Well, he's winning.
Yeah, and he was winning. Claudio went out there, kind of played the hits, but Claudio playing the hits is better than most people wrestling. So it was good. It was good for what it was. I enjoyed when he hit the big swing. Who doesn't love a Cesaro big swing, Yeah,
the whole crowd was counting for that.
Yeah. They were counting wrong. I was counting right. I started at a different starting point. They were the crowd, the live crowd always they start adding a number early. I hate that shit. But anyways, ultimately Claudio loses. And, in the post-match comments, Shota Umino, after getting attacked by this dude, being sent by his former mentor as an emissary to teach him a lesson, states that he has respect for Claudio. Tells you everything you need to know about where we're going with this story and this character. So,
yeah, match was good. I think I feel like this match was also designed to get sympathy for Umino, like you mentioned, the Claudio pre-match attack, and Claudio was kind of bullying and bruising him throughout the whole match, and it was designed for the crowd to rally behind Umino, and again, the crowd really didn't get behind him. And I think kind of the annoying thing here with the match was I don't really feel like he earned, quote unquote, the win here. Like, he got beat up the whole match and then just kind of hit a Death Rider and won.
If you think about it, that's what Zach did, and that's what David Finlay did. All the matches where the guys from New Japan got the wins, they got dominated by the structure, style, and offense of the AEW guys. And
yeah,
but again, the kayfabe makes sense. These guys all had big matches the night before, but also you kind of know what happened there.
Yeah, but I still feel like with Finlay, like he's still kind of like he gritted through and kind of earned that and was kind of able to hit. He hit that big powerbomb off the top, and that was the undoing for Brody. The undoing for Claudio was it was a quick reversal into the Death Rider, and that was it. Like after,
didn't he drop Brody's face on the turnbuckle too?
Yeah. So there was a lot Finlay did to kind of get the advantage there, and then like Claudio hit the Reclo bomb and was like killing this guy, and then
out of it, which was crazy.
Out of nowhere, just hit a Death Rider. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it is what it is,
Yeah, it kind of felt like sometimes the John Cena match where like he's facing like Brock or like Big Show, and he's just like getting wrecked, and then it's like boom, 5-knuckle shuffle, attitude adjustment, we're out of here. So yeah,
how you do when you're an ace.
Yeah, and post match he was trying to shake Claudio's hand. Claudio gave him the one bird salute there. So
yeah, why are you trying to shake this dude's hand? He was sent as a mercenary to fuck you up. Like, what are you doing?
Right. So then following that, we had the double title match of the AEW International title and Never Openweight title on the line, and Konosuke Takeshita retains the title by defeating Tomohiro Ishii in 13 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, this was much better than the Konosuke Takeshita match the night before. I thought that this was better than everything on Wrestle Kingdom Night 1 or Wrestle Kingdom 19. They went out there and they balled, and very similar in some ways to the Shingo match in terms of the style. But when we talked about the Shingo match having missed that extra gear, this match found it and then some, and that's the big difference,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like sometimes for Shingo, even though he came up in that Dragon Gate system, I feel like he does kind of need that more 15 to 20 to kind of get to that next gear, where Ishii is like 10 to 13. Like, he can give you 4.5 in 13 minutes. So that was like no problem for Ishii. Ishii can kick it to that next gear in a time limit like that.
Especially with Takeshita, we've seen the chemistry these guys have had. They've never had a singles match that I know of, but we've seen them in AEW on multiple occasions in multi-man matches. And every time they interact with one another, it's always just out of this world. Like, just always. So,
yeah,
you kind of knew what to expect here.
Yeah, this match was awesome. And Takeshita, I think he has the best Blue Thunder Bomb out there. Like, he had Ishii floating in the air.
I thought they call it something different.
No, his Blue Thunder is still the spinning.
Yeah, but I thought when he does it, he has a different name for it.
Maybe in DDT, but in AEW they still call it a Blue Thunder Bomb.
Okay, because I the only reason I say that, obviously I don't watch AEW like that these days, but I saw someone online being like, even his managers calling it in a Blue Thunder Bomb when it's really blah blah blah.
Oh, maybe he has a different name, but I mean AEW they call it Blue Thunder Bomb, and that's what I know that move as.
I'm gonna look it up now.
But yeah, that was great. And then he has a spot where he does the wheelbarrow German like roll through thing. That was awesome. He had a top rope Falcon Arrow for a great near fall. That was great. That was
sick.
Also lots of big forearms. Also, Takeshita's forearms are just so nasty sounding. Rocking Ishii with that. And a great brain buster towards the end there for a near fall. Ishii doing a top rope Frankensteiner was pretty awesome.
That was awesome. Yeah, that match just ruled.
Yeah, and then eventually Takeshita hit the Raging Fire to get the pin there. So, yeah.
And the Raging Fire is what, his turning Falcon Arrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
So a big win there for Takeshita. He has both the international and never titles after 2 nights. And then in the post-match comments, he did announce that he is now affiliated with NJPW, and it's being reported that he has signed a 1-year deal with NJPW and will be representing DDT, AEW, and NJPW in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that his contract sort of allowed him the ability to have dual contracts between America and Japan. That's why he was still contracted between DDT and AEW. So like, I don't know what the actual inner workings of, in terms of his dates and in terms of like who gets right of first refusal. I'm assuming it would be Tony Khan, but I don't really know. You know, I can't say that for sure. But my understanding is that going back to the G1, and this is why, you know, we kept hearing the persistent rumor that he's coming to New Japan, and then, you know, that they were putting merch out for him, was that he had voiced to people going back to then that he had intentions to come to this company, which makes sense considering like that New Japan, like when he was a little kid, like he was a New Japan fan and he was writing letters to the dojo, and like that was his dream promotion that he wanted to be a part of. I don't know. I heard today, just talking to a few people, that like this wasn't necessarily the most well-received news stateside. So it's not like this is in conjunction, like the two companies got together and like determined we're going to share the guy or anything. Like, he's allowed to sign in Japan. And I don't know necessarily that, you know, people in America wanted him to do that, but that's what has happened. And, you know, I don't know what the deal. He wasn't able to do this until now. So I think something has changed with his DDT status. And I think like basically a new contract came up and like they had to come to an agreement that he could be shared, but because he is still with DDT. So my understanding is he'll be working potentially all 3 companies, which is kind of crazy and ambitious. But you know, he's a dual champion, which having pen to paper probably is a good sign if you're a New Japan fan and you're wanting him to, you know, to continue to work here and defend the title. Did you see Takagi Kidani's comments to Tokyo Dome or to Tokyo Sports?
Yeah, he did mention that, you know, AEW runs less dates, and if Takeshita wants to be a part of New Japan, that's great. He can, you know, work more dates here in between AEW, and he can be, you know, leading New Japan if he wants to.
Yeah, that's big. So, you know, there's a reason why so many people in, you know, the New Japan circles have been saying adamantly and speculating and hinting that this guy was coming, because, you know, I think that's been a wide held belief and feeling amongst the talent based on comments he has himself made going back to the G1 being like, this is where I want to be, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, we need to get this man in the Tokyo Dome main event next year.
Yeah. Because I mean, honestly, MVP performer of the two nights. If you're just going by just raw, like who performed the best on those two shows across the board, like it was him.
Yeah. And that's pretty much, the case for any show he's on. He's usually, if not the best performer on whatever card he's on. So,
not that AEW pay-per-view with Will Hobbs.
Well, yeah, that was one where it wasn't, he didn't hit it out the park that night, but most nights he is the best guy on the card. We have a question here from Doc. He says, with Takeshita now being a New Japan contracted talent, does this mean the likelihood he actually is used as a part of the rebuild, or has he reached his peak as a tertiary champion?
If they're smart and if they're able to get the dates on him, and if all the stars align, yeah, he needs to be part of the rebuild. Absolutely. Like they should. The only thing I can really point to that's similar to this, remember when Ibushi had the dual contract with DDT and everything? Like, look how that worked out. Like,
yeah,
he was not with DDT much longer. And, I don't know. I don't know that I can't say that this is the case, but I just get the feeling. I don't know if let me put it this way. Do you think it would be any skin off of Tony Khan's back if they lost the guy? They already have to kind of traverse the waters of like having to utilize him because of how talented he is, but not having the creative behind it to really know how to do that and make everybody happy. It'd be like just one less guy that like Tony doesn't really have to worry about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, dude, they had the guy beat Kenny Omega twice.
And they didn't do anything.
And there was no follow-up to that. So, also, he's a super great wrestler. I'm sure Tony Khan enjoys having him on the roster and using him to have great matches, but clearly there is no plans to make him a super top, guy in AEW. And so, yeah, if he was to be gone, I mean, there's plenty of guys, super talented guys on that AEW roster. Like, I don't think it would be a big loss for that roster if
it wouldn't be like at all. It would not be noticeable much in the same way that, the Lucha Brothers going to WWE is not really going to be noticeable. Same way Cody left. It's not going to be noticeable. They've got so much talent there. They don't really need them.
Yeah.
In fact, it might be a relief in some ways.
Yeah. But New Japan definitely could use him. And I think that, having him will be a big win this year. And hopefully they are able to get some more dates on him, and hopefully he's in G1 again. I mean, dude, if I'm them, I'm trying to get him in the world title picture as soon as possible.
Remember, like when Okada was like, the speculation was he was leaving. We're like, well, what if they could offer him a dual contract? Blah blah. Now we kind of know like that could have easily happened. This man didn't want to come back. He was like, I want to go to America. And I never want to come back. He's like Doki, like
ain't going back.
He's not going back.
Oh man. So following that, we had the IWGP Tag Team Title 3-way match for the vacant tag team titles, and the Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, are our new IWGP Heavyweight Tag Champs after defeating Naito Inoue and Great Okan and Jeff Cobb in 13 minutes and 46 seconds.
Yeah, so I thought a lot of the juice to this match got like squeezed out before it even happened based on the ongoings of the press conferences the night before, because everybody was so excited about the prospect of who Great Okan's tag team partner could potentially be, who is X going to be. And then you just find out it's Jeff Cobb, which, don't get me wrong, I love Jeff Cobb, big fan. But like, if it was going to be Jeff Cobb, they should have just said it was going to be Jeff Cobb instead of having, again, it's the same thing that happened. Obviously, Jeff Cobb is not Taguchi. Like, these are different levels of letdown. But like when Taguchi was X in World Tag League, why did you tease that it was going to be an X if you didn't have like a special individual lined up? And then for it to be Jeff Cobb, we've seen Jeff Cobb and Great Okan tag for years and years and years.
Former champions.
Like he would have been the logical guy that you would have just said, like the next night they're going to tag together. But instead they said it's X, which led you to believe it's not someone that you would normally think of. And then it just ends up being him. and it becomes more of a letdown than it should have been. They should have just announced it from the offset, and then you don't have any sort of anticipation.
Yeah, I saw some people saying like, oh, well, they couldn't announce Cobb because he had the TV title match the night before, but I'm like,
that has nothing to do with this.
Right, the TV title wasn't defended on Wrestle Dynasty, so why does it matter? Like, win, lose, or draw, like, he could have been the TV champion in this match still.
It didn't matter.
Yeah, they should have announced, like, straight from the get-go. It should have been like, yeah, Jeff Cobb, he has a TV match on night 1. He will replace Hanari on night 2. And then, boom, that's already set. And then you insert Naito and Hiromu.
And then when they inserted Naito and Hiromu, I thought that was a terrible decision. Now, for a few reasons. One, obviously, it's a second Dome show. They're two, like we said, they're two of the biggest stars. They should be on the show, but they shouldn't be getting shoehorned onto the show the night before. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, why don't you just advertise them right from the get-go and maybe potentially sell more tickets? Now you're doing it last minute. And
I think that would have added more intrigue to their singles match, because you'd be like, oh, is their singles match how's that going to affect them working together the next night? Like, are they going to be able to quote unquote coexist after night 1? And I feel like, yeah, that would have been more intriguing. And again, yeah, you advertise. Clearly we saw that, under 20,000 here for this night. Maybe had they advertised Naito Hiromu for night 1 and advertised them being in this night, maybe you would have had better attendance.
Another issue I have with it is the whole point behind World Tag League, again, is that the champions get to challenge for the titles, right? And we had used the logic. We're like, well, because they're not challenging in the Dome, it opens up the possibilities for a big money match down the road. And it was sort of like the fact that the Bucks are getting the shot against the champions now doesn't fly in the face of the tournament. Like, the tournament's prestige and importance is still maintained because those champions are going to get a big title shot in the future. But instead they got shoehorned last minute into the match. And it does seem like down the line, we're going to get the Hiromu Naito versus Bucks match, which is fine. But if that's what you're going to do, why don't you just save it and do it later? Why did they have to get shoehorned in here when it didn't really make a difference? And in fact, from a quality standpoint, match was fine. I'm sure some people liked it better than I did, but I really, truly do think that a Great O'Khan, Jeff Cobb versus Young Bucks match would have been much better in terms of just quality than the 6-man that we got here. And I feel like it was a misutilization of Naito and Hiromu. I don't know. I just creatively, I felt like all these decisions were kind of all over the place and just seemed like very short-sighted. But in terms of the match was laid out to showcase Jeff Cobb. And I thought Jeff Cobb was like the shining guy, and they structured it that way, which was great.
Just wilding out. He did the big dive. Oh, the night before too, he did a big dive as well.
He did 2 big dives. Yeah.
Yeah. He's doing a dive here. He was throwing super kicks. He was trying to do everybody's moves here.
Yeah. He was awesome. And then obviously the Bucks, they got a good reaction when they came out. I saw some people say like they were super over. I didn't think that they were super over necessarily, but I thought that they got a pleasantly positive response, which I think that they were worried probably that might not be the case.
Well, yeah, they on Tunnel Talk. They said they talked to Fat Ass Massa, and they're like, are the fans gonna even know it? And they're like, yeah. He's like, yeah, they'll know who you are and they'll remember you. And so yeah, I thought they got a good reaction compared to like when they played the videos and there was like no response whatsoever. That came out to their old New Japan music. So yeah,
they got good responses. But I felt like personally, I didn't think that they went out there and like balled in the Tokyo Dome. They were good. I felt like they did the best of. They just hit every single best of like Young Bucks spot that you are used to seeing them do, which is great. And probably for a multi-man match like this is to be expected. But when you get that feeling watching a Young Bucks match where you're like, fuck, they're the best tag team in the world and nobody can do what they're doing. I didn't have that feeling. I felt like they were just like, we're running through our spots. This is our spots. This is what we do. Fuck you guys. 1, 2, 3. And that's the right call.
Well, the thing is, though, with their spots, their spots are so great that even though they're just doing the spots, it's like, man, like these guys are such a great tag team. Like Nick's doing the crazy, dive to the outside. They're doing all super kicks. I'm like,
I felt like they were doing it on like half speed, like almost like they're just like do. Like, I didn't feel like the urgency of some of the, like when they normally wrestle, you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like it's a 3-way tag, tornado tag rules. And they just went out there and they did the buck spots, which is cool. But we've seen the buck spots like a million times. I was hoping like that there would be like, because it was the dome, first time back in all these years, that they would just go out there and they would just fucking kill it. And I mean, it was fine. It was, for them, their average is still better than almost every other tag team out there, but it just was kind of, you know, is the Bucks playing the hits. It reminded me of like when we saw Tanahashi and Okada wrestle for the first time. We're like, yeah, it was good, but it's just them playing the hits and sort of like at half speed what they normally would do. That's what I felt like here. Still very good, but they probably have a much better, more kind of like legendary match inside of them for the next time they come back to New Japan, whether that's stateside or in Japan. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, obviously, this match is not going to be like a match of the year contender or anything, but I don't know. I thought it was a fun match, especially they haven't wrestled since like November, so it was just good to see them again. And yeah, I thought that, yeah, they looked really good. Did you see
the shape that they were in, though?
Yeah, they were jacked. I mean, yeah, again, on Tunnel Talk, Matt was talking about, you know, he's in the best shape of his life right now. You know, really cracked down on diet and workout. So yeah, they looked in great shape. I like their Japanese gear thing that they had on. Yeah, they looked really good. New
gear. They look good. Yeah, some people will be mad that they won. I'm fine with it. It's whatever. I mean, the tag division's really not on fire right now anyways. I am a little bit bearish on the idea of multiple people from AEW having New Japan titles, but you know, it is what it is. And I'm looking, I don't know, like on the one hand, I thought I was going to be looking forward to the Naito Hiromu versus them match, but after that Tokyo Dome main event, like, I don't know.
I don't know. Like I said, I feel like Naito moved better in this match. I know it was a multi-man three-way tag and people were going in and out, but like he did a pretty good Hurricane Rana in this match. Like he was like, actually, like I felt like he was running normally. Like he moved a lot better this night than he did on night one. So hope maybe, you know, like James Boyd, like I say, you know, grab a tag rope. Maybe he needs to be a tag wrestler this year. You run him and Hiromu as a tag team all year, and that's the lane he fits in this year.
Maybe someone shot him up with Novocaine. I don't know.
Yeah, he found somebody back there that can like inject something into his knees.
But again, like you said, match to me was fun.
Yeah, it was.
And most of these matches on the show for me were just like fun.
This was kind of like a fun like party match. The guys are coming in and out, doing cool spots. Also, tons of super kicks. Bucks get the win with the Meltzer / TK driver on Great Okan, which I thought Okan looked really good in this match too. He got some shine, doing a lot of suplexes and stuff. So yeah.
I don't remember him doing shit.
Yeah, he's doing a bunch of like belly to belly suplexes in this match. But yeah, he looked pretty good. So that was that. New tag champs there, and then after that we go into the IWG.
After the match, they said we're gonna go.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go make love to our wives. Yeah, that was one thing. Throughout the whole match, they were doing the whole stuff of like, you know, Nick, do a really cool move. Like they were like classic Young Bucks in this match. I loved it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was funny, the post-match comment there. So after that, we had the IWGP Global Heavyweight title match. Yota Tsuji retains the title by defeating the scapegoat, Jack Perry.
I thought this was underwhelming. It was fine for what it was, but considering the guys involved and the build and what it could / should be, it just kind of, I felt like missed the mark.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm starting to be out on Jack Perry. I know that's...
Oh, come to the light, brother.
I know that's for just Boy and Rich rides hard for Jack Perry. I don't know. I don't know if it's the scapegoat character or what it is. Because obviously, as Jungle Boy, I feel like he had a lot of great matches and it was always fun to watch. But since he's been the scapegoat, like, there's only like a handful of matches that have been considerably like notebook worthy. I think probably one of his best ones was the Chicago Umino match. Yeah. Besides that, I can't really point to a ton of stuff that's been great in his scapegoat run. I mean, he just had that TNT title match with Daniel Garcia, which I thought was fine. Like, he just really hasn't done a lot, and maybe that's quote unquote the character. But yeah, I thought he was super underwhelming in this match.
I think he's a very talented guy, and I think that there's a spot for him in wrestling. I just, the idea that he's the future and gonna be like an ace level type guy or like a top end player, I just don't see it. Rambone says Rich Latta would probably say he needs to do some flips. He would not be wrong. Yeah, I mean, I felt like he was better suited as a high flying babyface, to be honest, and I don't know.
Yeah,
one of those issues in AEW they have so much start-stop booking. Guys get hot, they cool them down. They get hot, they cool them down. And how many times has that guy gotten hot and then they cooled him down? It's been multiple times now. So
yeah, that's what like the work in the match. Like it just didn't fit the vibe of this show. Like again, like all these matches were fun. This didn't really seem like a fun match. Like I don't know.
I mean, I didn't really love the Claudio Umino match, and I didn't love this match either. I felt like those two in particular kind of under-delivered for what they could have potentially been, especially considering bringing over, guys from the outside. But it was fine. Tsuji picked up a win. I guess that's he beat a guy that has standing in both companies. So in kayfabe, that's a positive. But this match didn't stand out in the same way that the match he had with David Finlay the night before did.
Yeah. He did get some good crowd reactions. The crowd's definitely behind him, and he's now gets V1 under his belt in this global title reign. So again, he looked really good. Then following that, we had this incredible matchup, the best bout machine returning from diverticulitis. Kenny Omega defeats the madman Gabe Kidd in 31 minutes and 55 seconds.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about when I said like the crowd just really picked up when this match came on. Like you heard before anyone came out, as soon as they're like, when they do the next match or whatever, and everyone knew that this was happening, everyone was like, oh, like you heard it all throughout the crowd, and I was like, oh shit, they're like, this just woke the crowd up, and it was like chef's kiss. The entire, almost every aspect of the entire presentation, from all the big to the small parts, was just like perfect. The entrances, the entrance gear, the new music for Kenny, the stuff with Gabe Kidd kind of paying homage to Coughlin and unveiling the Lion's Mark and him sort of being like the defender.
The pop when the crowd saw a Lion Mark, I was like, let's go, Gabe.
and then like the heat between these guys before the bell even started, and you just knew like shit was about to pop off. And then I love the way they started the match. They started the match doing like shoot style quasi boxing, and that's right up my alley. Like they start like, yeah. And I don't know if you noticed, like Kenny hit him with a straight, like an actual straight, and it didn't look like anything, but he busted Gabe's lip right from the get go, and Gabe like touched he looked pissed. and the thing, oh, go ahead.
It played into the press conference where like Kenny's like, we can go out there and we can wrestle, or you want to fight, like we can fight. And so yeah,
that's the thing, people don't know like that. Like Tyson, what's his real name?
Tyson Smith, I think, or
is it? I want to say Tyson Dukes, but that's not right.
Hold on,
Is it Tyson Smith?
I don't know. I might be mixing him up with what's his face.
It doesn't matter. Well, Kenny Omega in real life had many like mixed martial arts.
Yes, I'm right. Tyson Smith. Yep.
Yeah. So as Tyson Smith, like he had actual MMA fights. This is a guy that, whether he chooses or not to incorporate it into his professional wrestling, like he can do jiu-jitsu, he can do kickboxing, like he's got hands, which is why I've always thought that the stories that came out of Brawl Out have always been really fucking funny. But like, yeah, you like, and I don't know, Gabe is a madman, but like he came out looking like he wanted to swing with him. I'm like, I don't know if you want this smoke, bro.
You better wrestle.
And he hit him with one jab and it hit him. And it was like one of those Shane McMahon punches where it looked shitty, but it definitely hit and it definitely sucked. And then I was like, okay, now he's going to try to wrestle him. And they just went off from there. And there's just so many story beats that I really loved. You probably were really into this shit too. I'll let you kind of talk more about what you liked.
Dude, yeah. Everything about this match was great. And this was the best belt match on this card. And yeah, the whole story of Gabe Kidd being the defender of the lion mark of New Japan, and Kenny thinking he's bigger than that. And yeah, I was surprised of how in the crowd they were booing Kenny, and then in the press conference he was healing it up. But I still thought Kenny's back, the crowd's gonna love that Kenny's there. But no, they worked him right into the story. They were booing Kenny. They got behind Gabe Kidd, and yeah, Kenny was such a bully in this match. It was so, dude. He power bombs Gabe Kidd through the table, which is crazy. And Gabe comes up bleeding, does a big dive to the outside on him and all the War Dogs and the referees, and yeah, it turned. It went from a fight, and then it started wrestling, and then it went into that brutal gear of Kenny's just going to mess this man up, and then of course Gabe got some back, put Kenny through a table, broke the table over his head, and Kenny's bleeding, and
I loved that. Like, that was so fucking brutal.
Yeah, and also too, another heel thing Kenny did, after the dive, he hurt his hip, and so he's asking for the ice pack, and Shomakato took a long time giving it to him, and so he's like started yelling at Shomakato, and the crowd didn't like that, and he was doing it in Japanese too, and like Charlton was like what's it called, translating and saying like he basically like dressed him down for taking too long. I thought Kenny did a really great job selling the body, because that was part of the story, was like that hypothetically if Gabe tests his stomach after the diverticulitis. I mean, that's what the same story. They did the same thing with Brock when he returned from diverticulitis, and really played that up in his matches. So it makes all the sense in the world. But like, Kenny wasn't over the top with it. He was like, his selling was like this, like, I'm hurt, but I'm trying to hide that I'm hurt. So like, he would still try to conceal that any pain was happening, but then like off to the side, he would do light selling, and you could tell like that he was getting hurt, but he didn't want to reveal it to the crowd or to Gabe Kidd, which is, I thought, really brilliant, because oftentimes in wrestling, guys are very over the top, but he was like adding a sense of realism to what was happening with his body. Yeah, and I thought from the very beginning, because he did the You Can't Escape forward roll and then the moonsault. From there, like he did the moonsault, and he kind of rubbed his stomach and was like, I'm okay, but I felt like he was kind of like trying to brush it off. Like, I felt the moonsault hurt him a lot more than people.
Well, you see guys do like the kind of lazy selling where it's like they know they're supposed to be selling, but they like got to get their shit in. So they're like, I'm going to do all my shit, and then afterwards go, oh, my arm. And but like, that's not what he was doing. Like, there was, the famous meme, the psychology book. Like,
yes.
Kenny was thinking this shit out and like really telling a story with what he was going through with the body. And I think Gabe Kidd knew that, was trying his best to take over that. And then I love the idea that like the War Dogs were out there with him, almost like in a similar role to the Bucks. Like, they didn't interfere. They were kind of his seconds, the junior tag team. It kind of mirrored what's gone on with Kenny in the past, which I liked that. I do have one thing that it's not a huge detriment, but when Kenny put him through the table on the outside, chef's kiss, amazing. And then Bryce is like, help, help, help. And I thought his sell was incredible. Like, I was like, oh, is he really hurt? But really what they were doing was they were just bringing everybody around so that he could do the blade job, and so that Kenny could dive on everybody, take the ref out. And then that's how they were able to circumnavigate the rules to where they could go into a hardcore area with no referee out there. Mm-hmm. But when Gabe Kidd comes up, his blade job is on the top of his head, but there was no offensive move that occurred that would have caused him to bleed from the top of his head. And I'm like, why are you bleeding right now, dog? Like,
I didn't think about that. I'm like, bro, you just took a power bomb. Like, maybe if the back of your head was bleeding, that would make sense.
If he had bladed the back of his head, I would have been like, he's fucking crazy. Like,
he's a madman.
But he didn't do that. There should have been some sort of move, at least like maybe get rammed into a post, then powerbomb, but like nothing happened. Like, there was no offensive move that occurred at all whatsoever that would have caused him to bleed from the front of his head. But that's fine. Like, Kenny hit an all-time gusher for him. I've never seen Kenny bleed that much in this match.
Yeah,
which was awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome. The superplex onto the folded chairs in the ring. was nuts.
Bro, the Dragon Rush that he hit with Gabe Kidd on the outside. I know that they're on a platform, so it's not as hard as cement, but like still, bro, what the fuck? Like they did incredible shit. And then, you know, once Red Shoes came out and restored order, then they like went into the big match, and the strike exchanges, the heat from the crowd, the near falls, and really the thing was like the whole time it's like Gabe's trying to put Kenny away, and Kenny's just trying to get him in the one-winged angel, and they're just building up to the one-winged angel, and like, you know, the story, if he hits that one-winged angel, it's fucking over.
Yeah. And then the spot where like, he gets him up, but then the midsection hurts, he jumps down, and then Gabe puts him in the octopus stretch. Dude, the crowd freaking loved that. He put him in he put him in the Cobra Twist, but I wanted him to switch to the octopus. I was like, I hope he switches to the octopus, but it doesn't matter. Like, you know what? So that's one thing I would have changed, was when he had him in the abdominal stretch, because of how the problem with like Kenny's, I was like, he should start throwing elbows right now. Yeah. He was grinding the elbow in there.
He was grinding it, but like, what if he was just like, bah, 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 and he just kept going, and then you're like, oh, like that was a missed opportunity, but it doesn't matter. I'm not in there. And he hit Kenny with a Gonzo bomb, which I have to assume is a planned Gonzo bomb. But that was fucking insane. The match was just, it was incredible.
Yeah.
And
Kenny hit a Kamagoye at one point.
Yeah, once he hit that Kamagoya, I was like, oh, fuck. He's hitting him with the one-winged angel. And, like, the match was so good, it didn't matter who won. But, like, I really was pulling for Gabe Kidd as, like, the quote-unquote defender. Like, I wanted him to win. I don't know if they'll ever wrestle again. It didn't feel, after it was over, like they're ever going to go back to this. But I would love to see it again, you know?
Yeah, I would definitely do another matchup with those guys. It definitely elevated Gabe Kidd here. Masterful performance. I think people need to start putting some respect on Gabe Kidd's name. I've seen so many people hating on him and burying him.
The funny thing is, everybody that doesn't like the nature of his worked comments, the worked shoot comments, they're just getting worked by them. So like, they don't realize, like, he's kind of just doing, someone said this in the Discord, but it's true. He's just kind of doing like a New Japan British variant on MJF, and people don't realize it, and they're getting worked by it.
Yeah, I think he's almost kind of like a Conor McGregor kind of mix with that MJF, where he's just kind of loose cannon, just kind of saying stuff, and like he's just trying to get under people's skin, and it works perfectly.
And it's working, and they're getting worked by it, and they're missing the guy's work, and they're calling him Chet Hanks, and I'm like, I don't know, bro. You're kind of missing out one of the best wrestlers in the world today, but whatever, like, you know. And they made a lot of those people have to shut their fucking mouths and take a look back and be like, oh, maybe I misjudged this guy. And this is one of those things where, you know, a lot of our friends were like, I don't like the gimmick, blah blah blah, and I'm like, I think you guys are gonna come around on this. Like, I'm telling you, like, wait till you see what they're about to do. And this was better than I thought it was gonna be. And we're probably talking about the match of the year already.
Yeah, like easy 5 stars. It's
easy 5 stars.
It's gonna be hard to beat this one. Did have a question? Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was gonna say, when I talked to Rich before I watched it, Rich was like, I was like, we're probably talking about, I was like, easy match of the year contender. He's like, drop the C, it's the match of the year. He's like, drop the Y. And I was like, why? You think it's the match of the decade? And like, and I was like, I don't know, bro. Like, there's been some really, I think it's easily in the conversation already, for sure. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I still kind of I like the first Ospreay Kenny match better than this one still.
Yeah, again, another 5-star match. You could definitely argue either way, but yeah, both incredible. Wit says great match. Going forward, Gabe needs to start winning more matches.
Yeah.
And Rainbow says Kenny didn't pick Gabe as a return match for no reason.
And just so we're not getting it twisted, it was Kenny that chose to come to New Japan to fight Gabe Kidd.
Yeah.
Kenny was not sent or lent.
It was, his choice. He wanted to come back.
He came back here, and people in AEW were like, what the fuck?
Rainbows asks, what do you see next for the involvement of Kenny Omega in New Japan? Is there another bout with Gabe in the cards, working with other up-and-coming talent, or is this the end for now?
I really don't know. I've heard some conflicting things about that over this past weekend, and I can't say for sure because I don't know. I thought that his post-show press conference where he really leaned into the heel shtick and said like he was upset because he chose to make his return to Japan, but the crowd booed him, which obviously they know what they're doing. He knew what he was doing. But then he brought up Kota Ibushi and it like adds some realism where he was like, and I don't even know if this is true, but he's like the one person who never turned their back on me. The one person I still trust in this country was denied access into the building today. And it's like, I don't know, like maybe they did turn did Kota Ibushi try to show? I don't know what the fuck happened there.
Yeah,
but like,
I haven't heard any reports, but I mean, whether it's true or not, like that fits in perfectly to this whole thing. And yeah, he did talk about he still wants to wrestle Shingo. He wants a team with Tanahashi in this retirement run. So, I mean, it sounds like he wants to do more New Japan, but we'll see.
The one thing that's like kind of just understood, I guess, across the board is like he has the freedom to come do this, and there's not much that like anybody can say about it, and up to now, he never chose to utilize it except for that one time at that other Tokyo Dome show. And I mean, they didn't promote that match either. And now that like things are kind of coming into clarity as to what the situation is, it kind of makes sense. But I don't know if he'll be back. I think really who that is up to is Kenny Omega. If Kenny Omega wants to come back, then he'll be back, and he'll be back with welcomed open arms, but I don't know if he will or want to or not. I don't know the situation. So yeah. I hope. That'd be so cool.
Yeah. Reese Hayes says after his showing at Wrestle Dynasty, would you prefer Gabe lead Bullet Club or turn face after being thrown out?
I don't care either way and I don't even need him to. I think that any of those scenarios or even a variant on the scenario, like I'd be fine with him instead of taking over Bullet Club, maybe leaving on his own and starting his own shit. That would be cool too. Whatever the situation is, I think a change is needed, and he's kind of earned that. And that would be exciting for the fans and get Western fans talking too. And, I think a lot of Western fans have kind of tried to find the guy that they're going to connect with in the exodus of all these other Western stars. And I think he's like the most marketable of them all right now, personally.
Yeah. And just based off the way the crowd was reacting to him, even going back to that one Bayface tease earlier this year, like the crowd wants to get behind him. They know his story. They know the struggles he had in the dojo. Like they see him as they see him as a Kenny Omega. They see him as a Zack Sabre. They see him as a guy that's one of their own. And so I think the smart money would be, I mean, he doesn't have to be a white meat Bayface. You can still kind of have him be the more Stone Cold Steve Austin.
How many times have like New Japan fans compared him to Stone Cold Steve Austin? And that's the funny thing. Like people on the outside looking in, they don't see it yet, but like I think the people that are watching the product are clued in and way ahead of the curve on this. And like that is the closest comparison point you're going to have is Stone Cold.
Yeah, and Rich tweeted on Twitter a while ago like this was going to be a similar like Bret Austin matchup, and that's exactly what happened here. There was a double turn. Yeah. The crowd got behind Gabe. They booed Kenny, and it helped elevate Gabe to that next level. The same way the Bret Austin match elevated Austin. And yeah, I think you have him be that kind of babyface the way Austin was, and that's the role you go because the crowd wants to get behind him. Another question here from Soup just came in the Discord. Says, what moment do you think the tears started flowing for Tanahashi? My headcanon is as soon as Gabe countered the one-win angel with the Inoki-style octopus stretch, Tana realized, oh fuck, we've been pushing the wrong dude. This MFR really is a Shinihon freak. Also, can either of you recall a time where Tana cried in a match that wasn't his own?
I don't know. Tanahashi just fucking cries all the time. I don't think he was crying until the post match, to be honest, because they clued in on him and he was tearing up, and you could see his face was doing the crinkle, and I was like, oh god, he's gonna fucking cry again. He's like Ric Flair, he just fucking cries all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've never seen him cry at a match that I could think of, but I've seen Tanahashi cry more than I probably should have. He cries all the fucking time. But it was, I mean, it was a cry-worthy match and moment for sure.
That was a great visual at post-match. Just cut him with crying.
I don't think it was about, I know it was just a joke, but I really don't think it was about, oh fuck, I think they know what they have with him. I think why Tanahashi was crying was the meaning behind it all, because of the struggles that Gabe had. And he was probably almost out of the company at one point just due to his mental health issues and everything. And then for all that to be turned around and for them to get to this point, to have that moment, is pretty special, honestly.
Yeah. And also, one last thing with the match, dude. Kenny coming back. This is probably one of the greatest comeback matches of all time. This guy didn't wrestle at all last year, had 2 feet of his intestines removed, almost died from diverticulitis, and came back looking exactly the same. Super great in-ring shape, great gear, great aura, great presence, great match. Did not miss a beat. So great comeback here for Kenny Omega, and definitely, want to see him push the tippy top guy, because he still has it. And something else about this match we got to talk about before we get to the main event. Comments from Chris Charlton. Chris,
why are you laughing?
I don't know. This man got.
You and I haven't talked about it at all, so I literally don't know what your thoughts are. Yeah. You probably know some of my thoughts, but yeah, I don't know. It's just funny. Yeah,
Chris got really fired up in this match, and calling Tony Khan a money mark, and talking about all billionaires are bad, and talking about all the talent that's been taken away, and that the Continental Classic is nothing compared to the G1. He was just saying what all diehard New Japan fans have been saying since AEW came around. He just spewed it up, just word vomited it all out on commentary.
So let me ask you this. Because I hate to say this, but I wasn't necessarily paying it super close attention to the commentary up to the Kenny match, because Rich had already seen everything, and I was messaging with him, and he was pay attention to what's going to be said here. But then I heard other people saying he was doing this all night. I don't remember him having done anything else. I definitely remember him making comments during the main event. Some of the comments you mentioned, he said during the main event. I don't remember him saying anything for the rest of the show prior, but people are acting like he did. So am I missing something there potentially?
I mean, I feel like it was more kind of playful comments towards the beginning. I can't remember anything that was that he said at the beginning. I feel like it was your normal kind of Chris Charlton kind of banter, especially once Rocky joins commentary. But then once you got to this match is where he really started going in and bleeding into the main event.
Well, you notice Rocky was only added to the show during this match.
I thought he came in. I thought he was on during the Young Bucks match. I'm pretty sure. Because he's
oh, did he come out?
Yeah, because he was the EVPs are my boss. And Charlton's are they? So he was definitely out a little bit earlier than that.
Okay, yeah. Well,
so yeah,
I don't know, Jeremy. So he made comments during the Kenny match that were not received well by parties, and then kind of continued, made some more during the second match, and then towards the tail end of the show, you started to hear him sort of make some remarks that almost sounded like quasi apologies, kind of taking a step back almost. Post show, people were tweeting about it. He put out a tweet, an apology, essentially talking about his passion for wrestling, kind of going, representing the home team and kind of going overboard, but kind of thanked Tony Khan, thanked Kenny Omega, thanked a bunch of different people. And then the next day on Wrestle New Year's Dash, he was not on the show. He was not mentioned on commentary. A few of the wrestlers, ELP and Jeff Cobb, came out and asked Walker where he was. Walker was super awkward about it and wasn't able to say anything, and they were stirring shit up, which was kind of a fucking funny rib. And then the reports came out from Dave Meltzer stating that he has been suspended indefinitely. Now there have been other
from commentary.
Other reports have come out later in the day, which kind of corroborate what I was told. I've talked to a few different people today, and I've heard different things from different people, but I think some of the things, I will say this, the stuff that Dave said does not align with what I heard today from a lot of different people. And it was mainly people that would know, that have contacts within the company and within, with the office and stuff like that. And so some of the you kind of know who Dave talks to. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I guess taking a step back, that's the full summary of what happened.
And then, Twitter was, he was a main character of Twitter today. Lots of comments from both sides of the fence.
Both sides.
Yeah.
It's
Tony
it's a flame war sort of thing.
Yeah. The flame war. Tony Schiavone, buried him with a tweet.
Oh no, he didn't bury him. He said something. Look, I know everything is, I know that everything is like borderline right now and kind of disrespectful and stuff, but like he said that Chris smelled bad is what he said in a tweet. Now, I'll say this. I'm not cool with Chris like that. Like I think we correspond with him sometimes, and when we see him, we speak. And I think I'm a big fan of Chris's work. I think Chris is a very valuable member to New Japan's product and everything. And I respect what he does. I don't know Chris on a personal level like that, but I've been around Chris, and I never thought that.
Yeah, I mean, we've met Chris in person a handful of times now, and I've never smelled anything bad. I mean,
but I don't know. I've never worked in the booth with him, so who am I to say? But I don't know. That was kind of. I know the Money Mark thing was over the line, but like coming out and being like, "Dog, you smell," like that. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
And Tony took it down quick.
Yeah.
Tony Schiavone.
Yeah.
So that happened in the fallout. Who knows what else is going to happen? But yeah, people all over the place thinking they know what happened and kind of running with things. So I guess this is the time where we talk about our thoughts about it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I do feel like he was a little too extra. Like it went from the kind of like home team commentator to just like next level, like I said, that's like a super annoying diehard New Japan fan, just like ranting on commentary and not focusing on the match. And I don't know if he just necessarily needs to be like suspended forever. I mean, definitely there need to be some kind of like.
Well, they're saying now, like the reports I saw, like Sean Ross Sapp put out a report, and he's saying that they heard that it was for 2 months. And I was told today that it was 2 months, but I was also told by somebody else it was just 1 month. So, we're not the newsbreakers here. So I can't say like for sure, but I heard both of those numbers from a few different people today.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think there need to be some kind of action. I don't think it needs to be forever, but yeah, I do think he crossed the line, and I think it's a little bit different when it's somebody like Gabe Kidd that's obviously building a program and building to a match and using that to build heat, whereas like Charlton's a commentary. Like he's a New Japan commentator, and he can kind of voice his kind of feelings there, but I feel like he went too hard. Like he was essentially like cutting a promo on the commentary. It's like, bro, you're not going to have a match. Like, what's the payoff going to be if you going this hard? And it's like, you got like New Japan's working with AEW now, like whether you like it or not. And so also we all have feelings of New Japan fans. Yes, we don't like that all the talent's gone and the way the partnership's been sometimes, but like you still have to be like, I don't know, professional on the commentary. Just kind of like, there's little jabs are fine, but I felt like he was just like going, like he was just like burying everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm kind of mixed on this because I see I do see both sides where, like, on the one hand, I heard it was made out to me like he was just constant, going. I don't think that's the case. From what I remember in that match, that he had like one lengthy rant where he called Tony the money mark, and obviously, like, Rocky was not happy. You could tell Rocky was pissed, and Rocky works for both companies. And that's where some of the kind of conflict or liaison-ishness, I don't know, kind of goes on there. But like, I thought, like, the one thing that he said, obviously, like, Chris Walker, they work for the company. They know people, they talk, but you know, they're not executives. Rocky is an executive. And Rocky's like, you guys have no idea. And when he said that, I'm like, they probably don't have the full scope or picture of what they're talking about in this, or like what he's talking about. But I also thought that the moment was sort of like, I don't know, man. He was framing it from the guise of, this is where Gabe Kidd is coming from. And he was literally almost verbatim repeating the comments and thoughts of Gabe Kidd. So from that standpoint, I know people don't want to hear that part, but like, that is true. He was like, this is where Gabe is coming from, and this is how Gabe feels. Mm-hmm. That is part of the story of the match. At the same time, do I think that he was also voicing his own personal real views and trying to like hide it behind the guys of the story? Yeah, yes. I do think he was. You know, so was it clear to everybody involved what he was doing there? Yes. I also kind of think it's like, for me, bro, I don't know. I came up as a fan of the Attitude Era when Jerry Lawler and Paul Heyman and all, you know, Tony Schiavone, these guys would say shit about other companies that were on the riff, that were, you know, Joey Styles, and they would roast people and they would say stuff way worse than anything that Chris Charlton said. And it's just funny to me because Tony Khan is this huge DVD Valley, you know, Death Valley driver video review, old school blog poster and in the message boards. And he loves that shit until it's aimed at him. And as soon as it's aimed at him, he's like, oh no, we're shutting that shit down.
Yeah. And I know there's conflicting reports on whether or not TK even heard it and had anything to do with it, or the company was the main ones to kind of shut things down.
I will tell you this. The narrative that has been given from Dave, and trust me, I respect Dave, but like, let's keep it a buck. Who does Dave talk to in the company? Dave hasn't talked to anybody in New Japan. He doesn't break stories about New Japan. He barely watches the product. Dave hasn't really had context, like real, like in-depth, like office context, except for probably like, you know, Rocky now. But like, who does he talk to? Dave's not like, you know, he talked to the Elite back in the day, and they're not in the company anymore. So like, Dave really doesn't have contacts in the company. I would trust the people that I trust the what I've heard from people that actually talk to people in the office and talk to the boys and are involved with the company, that pretty much said to me that, like, you know, I won't go into depth in it. You know, it's not our story to break, so I'm not going to give the details, but the version of the story that Dave gave, where, you know, Tony and them are not involved at all, and it was the office was irate and the boys are all unhappy and everybody hates Chris, that's not the case. That's not the case at all.
Yeah.
And multiple people have said that, like, you know, so I don't think that is what happened here. And do I think that the same guy who got fucking pissed about the comments from Effie and shut all the GCW shit down because he felt like a comment towards his dad like crossed the line, and has in the past like lashed out at people online when they use his name, you know, the wrong way, and then he fucking lashes out on Twitter and shit? Do I think that guy, even if he was quote unquote watching the show in Japanese, you think someone didn't tweet or call Tony and be like, yo, listen to what Chris just fucking said about you?
Yeah.
Like, you know, so it is what it is. But I personally did not think that the comment took away from the match from my personal enjoyment, because I've been following what Gabe said and I thought it was part of the match. I also love chaos, and I thought that when him and Rocky started getting into it, I fucking love that shit. But people said that if it happened on the other side, like if it was a Forbidden Door show and they were burying New Japan, and talking shit, that fans would get upset, and they're probably right. They probably would, at the same time, like nothing he said was wrong either. He didn't lie.
Yeah.
Nothing he said was a lie at all. I did like the comments that Rocky made, though, when they were talking about the difference between the C2 and the G1, and he brought up the travel aspect of it, which is a unspoken aspect to the rigors of the C2, which, I thought that was a good save, and I thought that he kind of was making a cover there, but I don't know, man. I think that this is blown out of proportion a little bit. You know what I mean? Like that this is the big story coming out of one of the greatest matches that we've ever seen in our lifetime, that this is the story.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I am surprised the way that this story has taken storm on Twitter, and that, like all my timeline all day is just people free Chris, or he deserves it. And like this whole thing, like, can we talk about the 5-star like match of the decade that we just saw?
Here's one thing I will say, compared to what he did here, to what him and Kevin Kelly did to Noah, the multiple times that they were on Noah shows, this was nothing. This was a drop in the bucket. The way they went in on Noah for no reason. Noah didn't even do anything to New Japan except for just work with them. And they fucking buried them under the earth every single time, like terribly, like really, really, really bad, like over the top. And this wasn't even kind of close to that. So not to say that makes it right, but like, I don't think people realize like this could have been worse.
Yeah.
And, I do think the sensitivity of the AEW fans, how upset they got about it, just is kind of a tell. Like, you're this butthurt over some comments about a grown man that can protect himself, who clearly did protect himself, because now the person who said those comments about him is in trouble. Like, I don't know. Like, if someone made comments about Tanahashi, I don't think I would really fucking care on this level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think from what I understand, people in the company do feel like he went into business for himself a bit and, kind of did it to pop the boys. And it probably wasn't a good idea. I think that there's a way to express what he was expressing without having done it the way he did. And it wasn't the best political maneuver.
Yeah.
There's probably a much wiser way to do it.
Yeah. I think he got caught up in the passion of the match. And like, I think he worked himself into a shoot. Like, I think he kind of started going off the story, like you mentioned, and he just kind of like started injecting his personal feelings into it, and it just went too far.
Well, I mean, there basically the one thing is he said money mark. If he hadn't have said that, I don't think that he's in trouble really on the same level at all. It's that personal shot at Tony Khan where he called him a money mark. Mm-hmm. That's what fucking
saying,
did it.
All billionaires are bad.
I never heard him say that. I heard some people say that. I don't remember that part.
Yeah, he definitely said that.
Well, depending on your politics and your worldview, he's not necessarily wrong in that either,
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's where we're at. And I mean, I don't know how much more I do think that like even the New Japan fans, that it's interesting because Kevin or Chris does a lot in that company. So if he's just suspended off the desk, is he still doing the day-to-day? Are we still going to get, is the website going to get fucking fixed?
Hey, you said 2 months. He's got 2 months free to work on that damn website.
But, I had even heard some speculation, like if the hiatus was a real hiatus, or if it's like, how in some companies they say like, oh, this person is taking a break and then they don't come back,
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, when I first heard the plausibility that might be the case, and apparently, I mean, that's not the report at all, but there was speculation about that. And I'm like, think about it. Like, you suspend a guy and then you bring him back, like, for making comments like that, kind of opens the floodgates. Maybe people feel like they could get a slap in the wrist. Maybe there's potential there that they could make an example out of him. I mean, remember the one time, like, Chris was already kind of like fired during the pandemic the one time. I mean, I don't know if that's 100% the case, but he was gone. And then, the reports were that Kevin made the play and the fans outcried, and then he was brought back.
Yeah. Because there was like a time where, like, yeah, they didn't want it. I think it was Harold May somebody wasn't a fan of him, of his commentary.
It was the TV people. I can't remember which. Yeah, it was TVSI. They didn't want him on the desk.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I don't know if maybe he felt like he was, and I'm just speculating here. I can't speak for him, but he is a very integral part. Like, who has his unique skill set where they're able to, like, translate in real time, understand the history of the product, have their hands in so many different divisions of the company's day to day, and kind of came up under Kevin Kelly and has developed this rapport with the fan base. Like, he might have felt very secure in his position and thought that he was irreplaceable, but they showed today, like, yeah, we could just do this shit without anyone translating the Japanese. Like, Walker just go out there and do it by himself. Like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like Walker is learning some more Japanese, and it sounds like maybe somebody is feeding him stuff, but
well, Walker is great, but it does suck not having Japanese. I hate watching these shows without Japanese translations.
So. Yeah, because they're cutting promos and stuff, and it's like, yeah, I want us to know what he's saying in the promo, and Chris does a great job of doing that.
Yeah, and even on New Year's Dash, some of the, a lot of these Westerners are taking the cue from, like, Zach and Kenny, and they're like, I'm going to learn Japanese too. And now they're starting to cut promos in Japanese. I'm like, dog, I don't understand you. So I don't know for sure if Drilla Maloney said he's going heavyweight or not. I don't know what the fuck he said there, so it's hard to tell. But yeah, that's the whole thing. I don't really have much. I think it's blown out of proportion. I know some people feel very, they have strong feelings both ways, but
yeah, I don't have strong feelings about it.
I'm kind of in the middle.
Honestly, I'm like, I don't even know why people are still talking about it at this point. Like, it should have been one of those news stories that kind of, like, blew over very quickly.
My biggest thing is that a lot of people have taken this as an opportunity to, like, be like, Chris does a terrible job. Chris doesn't do a terrible job. Maybe he made a bad judgment call in this moment, but, like, Chris is a really great commentator. And
he's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Chris does a great job. And then, a lot of people are just using this to push their AEW or New Japan agendas or whatever the fuck. And, like, I don't think it's as deep as that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
At the end of the day, a dude said some shit about a billionaire, a grown man. and you know what? Like, the one thing I hope doesn't happen here is I hope that Chris is able to return to work and everything is good. 'Cause I don't want to see that this guy, like, lose his job over some comments.
Yeah. That weren't, at the end of the day, not that bad.
Yeah. Like, he has a money mark. So,
all right. Well, let's run through this and get through some of the news stories from Dash and wrap this show up. So the main event.
Oh yeah, the main event. Okay,
for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. We had Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Ricochet in 20 minutes and 57 seconds to retain the title.
So this is the one match where I would say between the AEW, aside from the Kenny match, where it was like, it was great. I didn't know how they were going to follow the match, and they just came out guns blazing, but it was still just kind of fun at the end of the day. Like, it didn't feel like a special moment necessarily. And that's a terrible thing to say when you got Zack, a foreigner, in the main event of the Dome back-to-back, wins both nights, never been done before by any, not just foreigner. Nobody has ever won back-to-back main events in the Dome. And then for it to be a foreigner. And the second match was fantastic, but it was mostly a Ricochet match. And I will tell you this, I thought Ricochet, this is the best Ricochet has looked since he left WWE and probably since NXT in general.
Yeah.
He just was on, and Zack was a great base for him. And obviously it made sense why Zack wasn't, like, telling the Zack story, because he went 43 minutes the night before. And ultimately he beats Ricochet. I thought that it was a great match. You know, I probably had this a little bit over the Mercedes match, but like under the Takeshita match is probably where I'd slot this in terms of the night. But it just didn't feel like Zach had arrived necessarily. It didn't feel like this big crowning achievement like it probably should have. Because again, it still just had that empty in a vacuum. Like, this was fun, great match, but this was fun. Kind of reminded me of like a PWG main event. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, also they had the tough task of following Kenny and Gabe, which that should have been the main event. And maybe one day Gator will learn to stop putting Kenny Omega in the semi-main event.
Well, I thought they did great. I thought they did a great job following it.
They did, but I feel like his match probably would have gotten a better reaction had it not followed the Kenny Gabe match. But they did have a great match.
You know what? I disagree because I felt like the crowd was already up and then they just stayed up.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like they almost benefited from the crowd being alive.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, the crowd was into the match, but I still feel like Kenny and Gabe should have main evented. But, I mean, they did a great job, the best they could following. As mentioned, it was a great match, and Ricochet attacked him from the bell and hit the big Sasuke special there and kind of took it to Zach throughout the match. And it was very much more of a Ricochet match, like you mentioned. He's flying around, doing a lot of his high-flying stuff, and then Zach trying to do his best to catch him in holds, but he had a hard time keeping up with Ricochet, and he was selling, a lot of the injuries from the night before. And also, for a whole year, Zach has been selling his midsection too. And so, Ricochet targeting the midsection with a lot of his high-flying moves. So, great back and forth there until Zach hits the Zach driver for a near fall, and then he tied up Ricochet in one of his wacky submissions and got the verbal submission.
Yeah, and he tapped too soon. That was like the one drawback. Like, because they were building to that dramatic, like he gets him all tied up and then wrenches back and then the tap's supposed to come. But like, I don't know if Ospreay knew or Ricochet knew that. And he tapped a little too early, but that's fine. The match was still great. I mean, I still, I don't know, 4 stars.
I'm looking for 4.25. I wouldn't
4.25.
Yeah.
Very good match.
Yeah. So that was Wrestle Dynasty. Discord Daddy says, why, in your opinion, was Wrestle Dynasty a better in-ring product than Wrestle Kingdom?
It was a better in-ring product because they had guys from AEW that were younger and, more able to go on the show. That's pretty much it. Like, this was structured better and that's it.
Yeah.
And they really benefited from having Ishii in a highlight spot where he usually is not on the Tokyo Dome, and then having Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks there. And, I think having Ricochet, Brody King, and Claudio, well, we've said this for a while. Like, those 3 guys, they were sent there to lose. And they're not necessarily like the biggest kayfabe names in AEW, but they're great talents. So the quality was just more consistent across the board.
Yeah. Then Ramon says, everyone who struggled during Wrestle Kingdom looked much better on Wrestle Dynasty. With Naito, you can chalk it up to match structure and layout or something else. With Umino, to length, to not having a boo-boo face or something else.
I don't know. I was so down on the guy after the first night. I don't even care how he did the second night.
Yeah, I mean, he did a little bit better, but it wasn't like a huge improvement or anything. So I think we kind of talked about that match and the problems there. Naito, I think definitely the match structure and also there being 6 guys in there definitely helped him out a lot. So following that today, January 6th, we had New Year Dash 2025 from Ota City General Gymnasium with an attendance of 2,348. Last year, they were at Sumida City Gymnasium to 2,910. So a little down compared to last year's Dash. And I'm just going to run through the results, and then we can talk about any angles that happened. So we had a pre-show 6-man tag with Tenkoji and Yuji Nagata defeating Daiki Nagai, Murashima, and Chomakato. So Dad's just beating the lines there. Then we had Josh Barnett and Bolton Oleg wrestling to a 5-minute time limit draw. Post-match, Josh Barnett saying that he's going to get Oleg to a championship one day.
I will say this. I really enjoyed that match for what it was. I thought it was super fun and quasi shoot, honestly.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Also, both guys, great amateur shoot wrestling background. So
I think everything was a shoot until like the last like 40 seconds where they like laid out what the finish was going to be. And I think everything else was just like live rolling between that.
Yeah, so that was good. Then after that, we had United Empire, Francisco Akira, Great Okan, Jacob Austin Young, Jeff Cobb, and TJP, defeating El Fantasmo, Jado, Master Wato, Shota Umino, and Tokyo Hanma. So they set up a Great Okan, Shota Umino feud here. Okan ripping up the paper titles post-match, leading to him and Umino brawling. And then they also set up Jeff Cobb, wants to challenge ELP for the TV title.
Yep.
Then we had House of Torture and Narita Sho, Kanemaru, Yujiro defeating Tanahashi, Tiger Mask, Makabe, and Toru Yano. Post-match, House of Torture, it sounds like they want to challenge for the Never Six-Man titles. And so here we go. We're still doing Hantai versus House of Torture.
Yeah, it looks like the Hantai Tanahashi House of Torture feud is going to continue. There was no Evil. I guess he said he's done with the company post Wrestle Kingdom 19, but he'll come back. But I'm perplexed why we're still going this way, especially with Tanahashi's retirement year, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Then we had the War Dogs team of Clark Connors and Sonata defeating Taichi and Taka. So this was all to build the Taichi and Sonata feud. There was some post-match heat there. Taichi chasing off Sonata with a chair. So clearly we're going to get singles between them probably at New Beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had Despi and Kushida defeating Kenta and Taiji Ishimori. Big news here, Kushida tapping out Kenta. And this was all to build to Kushida challenging Takeshita for the Never title, which will happen this Saturday at Battle in the Valley. And then also Ishimori post-match challenge Desperado for the junior title, which is also happening at Battle in the Valley.
There's heavy speculation. It's not confirmed, but heavy speculation both in the Japanese press and then amongst fans in the know that this was Kenta's exodus from New Japan and that he's going back to Noah.
Yeah, because of that whole storyline of like Kano wanting Kenta to help him and Kenta made the save for Kano. So yeah, it definitely seems like he might be returning to Noah full time. Then after that, we had LIJ, Bushi, Shingo, Teton, and Tsuji defeating Finley, Drilla Maloney, Gabe, Kidd, and Gato. So here they were setting up Tsuji and Gabe Kidd, looks like, for the global title. And then post-match, Drilla Maloney cut a promo, sounds like he is moving up to heavyweight and called out Shingo for a match.
Sounded like it. We're not entirely sure because, again, no translator, but that's what it sounded like. So
yeah. Then semi-main event, we had Hiromu and Naito defeating Funky Sauce, 8 minutes 36 seconds. So clearly this was just to build up some momentum for Hiromu and Naito and get them into a spot to where they can challenge the Bucks in the future.
I noticed some dissension in the match between Zayn and Taguchi as well. Nothing super over the top, but almost seemed like maybe there's going to be a breakup coming down the line, possibly.
Maybe. Yeah, I'll say I feel like Funky Sauce was kind of a last minute thing to
just something I noticed. That's all.
Yeah. Then the main event, we had the Chaos team of Hiroki Goto, Roppongi Revice, and Yoshihashi. They defeated the TMDK team of the Ichiban Sweet Boys, Oiwa, and Zack Sabre Jr. So following up on Goto's Rambo win, setting up some heat there for Goto and Sabre. Plus, we have Roppongi Revice. They challenge Ichiban Sweet Boys backstage. The whole thing with Vegeta kissing Yo and sealing the contract with a kiss, and that some of that played in this match here as well. So those are the feuds that we have coming up for New Beginning.
Yeah, I'm not super big into the like strangely sort of sexually charged feuds in New Japan, but maybe I'm sure there's fans out there that love that shit. Obviously, Tunnel Talk, if they get their hands on this, they're gonna love it. It's not necessarily for me. Goto's carrying that contract around. It seems like maybe he might be the leader of Chaos as well. So we'll see how that plays out. And then, the Yoshihashi Oiwa brawl, that was the best thing on the whole night. Like,
post match, they're brawling forever after the match. So yeah, clearly we're probably gonna get Oiwa versus Yoshihashi also a New Beginning.
And it was awesome because the Young Lions kept trying to break him up, but then like some of the guys from their different teams would come over and like pull the young lions away and let them go back. And they're like, let them fight. They just kept fighting like forever. Like they just kept fighting all the way into the back, like forever. Like I can't do justice to explain how long this thing just kept going. So that was really fun. But one of the weakest New Year's dashes in years, no surprises, no returns, no debuts. Thank God there's no Baron Corbin. No major, like no really major angles that you would like hope to see played out here. And none of the matches really mattered. I mean, no, aside from, Kenta tapped out, but there really weren't that many surprise. It just wasn't what you want from New Year's Dash.
There's so many of those guys in town. You're telling me they all flew back that you couldn't get like,
bro, Tony was pissed about what Chris said and was like, I'm pulling all my guys. You guys are ungrateful for what I did for you. Let's go, guys. No, I'm just playing. I don't know if that happened.
You have all those Lucho guys that you're telling me you couldn't do like Mascot Arata and like
you couldn't get Hechicero out there for something? Like, come on, dude. That sucked. That was weird.
Yeah. So that was New Year's Dash. Gonna run through the Battle in the Valley card and we'll get out of here. So this Saturday, January 11th, we have Battle in the Valley. We have Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hechicero. The NWA Strong Openweight title will be on the line. Gabe Kidd defends against Tomohiro Ishii. The Sumi Sakai retirement match, Hiromu, Yuka Sakazaki, and Mayu Iwatani versus Sumi Sakai, Evil, and Sho. The Strong Tag Team title on the line. The West Coast Wrecking Crew will take on Roppongi Reed Vice. Fred Rosser and Matt Vandegrift will take on Shane Hasten and Bad Dude Tito. Desperado will defend against Taiji Ishimori. And Takeshita will defend against Kushida.
It looks like a okay show.
Yeah, definitely a step down from last year's Battle in the Valley where you had Moxley and Shingo, Okada, Ospreay. I feel like they did a better job last year throwing out some bigger matches.
You would think like with Hechicero in town, he should have come out and had something with Zach at least and build up for this, but that's not even a title match. It should be a title match. But anyways, Zach Hechicero should really deliver and kind of take the taste out of our mouth from the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah.
And then Gabe and Ishii, especially with Gabe riding this high and everything, like that one could really be something special. The rest of the show is fine. I mean, I feel like I've seen Desperado and Taiji Ishimori. Some people are probably really excited. I've seen that a million times. So
yeah, I mean, their Super Junior Finals was a pretty match at Dominion. So,
I wasn't excited for that either.
Yeah, I'm not like excited for it, but it'll be a good match.
It's gonna be a good show. And good first step in the right direction for 2025 because New Year's Dash was not it.
Yeah. Do you have anything for recommended match of the week?
You know what? I do. I think that we should watch. There's two matches that have occurred. I think we should just get them knocked out of the way. Start 2025 strong. So I think we should watch that Kenta Kano match from the January 1st show with Noah. And then that Stalker Ichikawa match from Dragon Gate, his retirement against Tanahashi.
All right. We'll watch both of those and come back.
I think both of those, and then then we'll be kind of caught up, and everything will be cohesive and good.
Yep, and then also next week we'll also reveal the winners of the 2024 Year-End Awards. So once again, if you have not voted, please go out and vote on that. A couple more days to vote on that.
Go out there and rock the vote.
And that's going to wrap things up for us this week. So remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up by patreon.com/KIStrongstyle. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate. Click on the donate button under the Keeping a Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media on X and Blue Sky. Follow us at KIStrongstyle, at socialsuplex, and at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/socialsuplex and the Wrestling Square Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, on the Pro Black Guy, also Keeping a Strong Style. On YouTube, we're at Social Suplex. Join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me, jeremy@socialsuplex.com. And check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We have One Nation Radio with Rich and James, All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin, Imps, WWE Adventure with The Implications, Matthew Mayer, Wrestling Art with Chris Things, Tunnel Talk with Allie and Aaliyah, and the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping a Strong Style. the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
What is... Dax, are you?
Tracking all our cars on Carvana Value Tracker on all our devices? Yes, Kristen, yes, I am.
Well, I've been looking for my phone for...
In Dax's domain, we see all. So we always know what our cars are worth.
All of them?
All of them. Value surge, trucks up 3.9%.
That's a great offer.
I know. Sell?
Sell.
Track your car's value with Carvana Value Tracker today.